Welcome to the Road Advisory Committee. Calling the meeting at 6:30. Are we there? 6:30? 6:31. Patrick, would you like to do roll call?
Sure. Kerry?
Present.
Hubert?
Present.
Shields, present. Walsh?
Present.
Groden?
Present.
Hubert?
Present.
Smith?
Present.
Townsend?
Present.
Did everybody have a chance to go through the agenda? Any changes, amendments, additions, subtractions?
Move to adopt the agenda.
There is one thing though. The policies that we included here, I was talked to the clerk about the policies, and we really don't have we're just kind of piecemealing. So I went to the Planning Commission policy or bylaws, and I think maybe we should adopt something like that. So if we could move that policy to the next agenda or next meeting, would that be okay with everyone? And then we can read through the bylaws and get more of an idea. Oh, does the DDA and the other committees have bylaws or policies?
CDA does.
DDA has just adopted, but it's a single page. It's very minimalistic.
Okay, would it be okay to just add it to the next meeting?
Sure.
Yes, I had a couple of suggestions about just beefing up the language a little bit as well. So I can send a note.
Okay, let's do that. And then because they could, reading through the Planning Commission bylaws, it was getting a little daunting. They have a few pages, but we could adopt some things and then we can work on that together. Okay, so let's, it'll shorten the meeting for tonight too. Let's see, there. Okay, so we're going to remove G4. But other than that, any other changes?
You're fine with that, Jane?
I'm fine with it, yeah.
I'll second or support the modified agenda.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Time for public comment. Anybody that's present, we'll go first and then we'll do the Zoom. How many on Zoom?
I wanted to thank all of you for your time and in getting this organized so that there's rules and there's discussion, which is very important, pros and cons, because it is a lot of work to be on a committee. And we really needed a roads committee. And I really appreciate that.
Don't mean to interrupt. Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
Oh, see who I am?
Yeah. that's
Yeah,
all right.
okay. Paula Globerson, Scio resident for 40 years almost. But I do appreciate it because we could all be at the Peony Garden. We used to be able to drink rosé down there and have a picnic and that, but it's very much appreciated because the newsletter and Scio doesn't really give a full, you wrote a pretty good article and I think Roy put something in there too a little bit. But a lot of people didn't have really any idea the pros and cons, not just of Park Road, but of a lot of different, what the rules are with the SADs and all that. So even though it has been contentious at times, I personally, and Mark Rizzo, trustee, always says I'm Italian. Well, I'm not. I'm Dutch and German. A little English thrown in there. But I think that's good. And $2.5 million for Park Road when we have a fire department and other things that I think are more pressing, because that is going to be a high-speed cut through. And there's ways of keeping the traffic from coming through. I lived in Scio Hills before. Pratt Road is all dirt. People come there too, keeping the speed down other than spending $2.5 million. And plus, a lot of people were not aware on Rolling Wood. I don't live on Rolling Wood. I'm way away from there. I have the woods totally behind me. And that area, and that's and I think it was Matt Parks, but it could have been some other person, had a letter to that effect that they're gonna cut all those trees down, put the culverts, they're gonna have the pathway. Those people are not gonna have a buffer at all in their backyard. And when people found that out, I think there was, and plus the drainage issues that are special in that particular area, because it really was a wetland area, Arbor Point, kind of like what they're building where they found the herons. So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you. And discussion and rules and following the rules usually come up with a better conclusion and compromise at times. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that's present, public comment? No?
Just listening.
Okay.
Yeah, if anybody would like to make comment online, please raise your hand. I don't see any hands raised at the moment, but we are in public comment, and I just admitted 3 other people, so hence why I'm making the comment that I'm making.
And how many do we have on Zoom?
1, 2, probably about 12. As a guess, less a few internals, myself included. I don't see any raised hands.
Okay. Close the public comment period. All right.
Oh, I just got one.
Okay, go ahead.
Rob Patterson, please go ahead and unmute yourself and fire away. I see Jonathan in. But I don't see any audio attachment. So I see one raised hand. Oh, no, that's crazy. He's here, but there's no. I don't. He's missing an audio. Okay. Yeah, I don't think Jonathan obviously has some audio issues because can't solve those.
Is that the hand that's raised? Is Jonathan?
That's Rob's.
Oh, that was Rob's. Okay. Well, we do have another public comment period towards the end.
That's the only hand that was raised. There are no others.
Okay. Communications and correspondences. I did include, since there was a thread regarding the design of corners that affects speeds, email thread, I put that into the correspondences, but then that's also in, I believe, under discussion. Yeah. Let's see. And I don't know if you were able to open the MLive article. Linda, thank you for sharing. Some people can open it without a subscription, other people can't, so. Okay, so the next thing would be the resolution and charge for the Road Advisory Committee. Jeff, you were asked for that to be included, and we did when we first, back in early 2022, we did go over that, but since then we've had a couple of new, and we have couple people had left. So I think it's a good idea for us to go over, as well as there's some committees that have been talking about, there's some like culverts and, the bike paths and things like that. And they're trying to find a committee that would fit under, and they're looking at us that in regards to transportation. They're different than pathways because the bike paths are in the road. So I don't believe the bike paths are part of our resolution, so we can go over the resolution and then decide on what we want to include. And another thing is that when we get to it later, the board has decided to have a ballot question for road funding. And we need to discuss committees or how to create the ballot, and not only that, but come up with a plan, because we have to have a plan to give to them. They're suggesting a subcommittee, but I think that as a committee together, we could work on that. But it's up to us what we want to do. So did the charges, I don't see the charges in here, did they not attach? Or did they?
This is page 26, I think.
Okay, okay, I'm still under the,
A through K is.
yes, okay. Good. What? Okay. Yeah, okay, so it did, sometimes I check them, but they don't always come through and I don't understand, so I was kind of panicking a little bit. All right, so yes, the resolution, so, or we have 7 charges, or 11, sorry, 7, yes, A through K, so that would be about 11, I guess. And really, because when I read through this, what they did was the original road advisory committee back in 2012 or whatever, they just copied and pasted and gave it to us. So we could always ask the board to revise this for us if we feel like some of it isn't fitting, or we need to, add something to it.
You were just talking about bike trails, and under I, in the charges, pedestrian signals, signage, bike lanes, trails, and other traffic calming safety features is included in the original charge.
Good.
And
really, it says partnership.
Oh, wait a minute. The transportation TAP
doesn't
is.
exist anymore.
But it says and the planning commission.
So we can just change that to PPP, right?
Yeah, that's what I would say. that
Yeah.
PPP took over TAPS.
Right.
Okay, so that needs to be changed. Yeah, so, and then also what came up at the last meeting was the DDA. And we were wondering about that. And then Jeff, you pointed out that we're supposed to be working with the DDA to maintain their roads. So I did have, at the last DDA meeting, I did speak during public comments, and because the whole Dino Drive and the Township Revolving, or Township Improvement Revolving Fund from 2008, all of that was up for discussion. And Dino Drive, they were trying to find a way to pave pave Dino Drive. So, and then the Township Improvement Revolving Fund is a revolving fund, and it was originally set up as a seed for future SADs. And for some reason, it was never used. There's been $147,000 in it around there, and it's just been sitting there, which that money is not to be used for a specific project, only if the project is under a SAD. I'm sorry.
That's correct. It was originally set up, the fund was set up to be used for SAD support. Those people who did SADs chip seals, patching, whatever, but that was to be done with that money.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, please. I was just gonna say, what is your name, please?
Where?
Oh, Al. Okay, I know your name. Yeah,
I was on this committee. One of
That's-
the first ones on the committee, so.
okay, that's why. All right. Thank you. Yes. So, so they, when as SADs were created over time, they created their own fund for them, but so that money's been sitting there. And if we're going to, how we do the roads in the future, Roy, you had the idea that, the minimal special assessment districts, only if somebody wanted to improve from gravel to pave, then we could use that fund, and then the interest and whatnot would go back into that fund for the next one. And if we ever get to the point, however, we do the road funding improvements and the road funding in the future, if let's say we do a millage for 5 years, which that we will be doing a millage, but I don't know for how long, and they decide not to do a millage anymore and go back to the SAD, then we'll have that fund already.
Just to clarify, that 140,000 is only within the geography of the DDA, right?
No. The Township Improvement Revolving Fund is for under Public Act 188 for the township. It's not for individual committees.
The money was collected from businesses on 2 roads within the DDA.
Yes.
So it would be, I don't know, if you took the money and put it somewhere else, if I lived on those 2 roads or outside the DDA, you paid me money that, they paid into this revolving fund.
Well, it was set up that the DDA would help seed that, and then with half the money, I guess, and then to fund the SADs for April Drive and Jackson Plaza, I believe. And then when they paid it back, it would go into that SAD for future SADs.
Right. But the business owners, what they paid in went into that fund.
Yes.
So
But
it was a business owner, so I guess I'm not a business owner.
The DDA. It
Wait.
was intended for local roads. Read the charter.
That's right.
I'm sorry, say,
I
Roy?
don't know. No, I'm saying the business owners that paid into that were within the DDA.
Mhm.
And that's what it seems like,
No.
keeping that money within the
That's not what the
DDA
charter
just
says.
would make good sense. I mean, I'm not sure it has to, but if, if you're trying to keep the DDA whole, it seems like you invest that back in.
Well, the township, so the township paid for that SAD, and then they are paying the SAD back. So it's it's a revolving fund.
Her to stop talking so we can actually have a conversation.
Please.
Yeah, I just don't like statements that are inaccurate.
Well,
Conveyed as
yes.
if they are facts. They are not facts. But Mr. Townsend.
Okay, so could we, Kathleen, please write down your comments at the public comment, please, or questions that you have. So did I include, no, I think I brought it. The Township Revolving Fund and what it states in that resolution or that charge. And maybe I didn't.
There's a hyperlink to
Okay.
it under agenda G.3. Scio Township Improvement Revolving Fund 2008 PDF.
Okay, good. Yeah, there it is. Okay.
Key 3, you said?
Yes.
That links to 3 documents.
And the center one says Scio Township Improvements Revolving Fund,
Yeah.
which is the original adoption of
2008.
Yeah, the township desires to establish a township improvement revolving fund for the purposes authorized by Act 188 to be used to defray the costs of road improvements in the township by advancing funds from the Township Improvement Revolving Fund to be repaid with the proceeds of special assessments. Where is the part. Oh, here's the resolution from April 23rd. Okay, from the board, the background and whatnot. So Dan Arbor moved and Dave Cornish second, a motion requesting the Scio Township Board to establish a local revolving fund to improve and maintain township roads. An agreement as to the use of the funds will be restricted to conditions mutually accepted by the DDA board and the Township Board. To initiate this revolving fund, the DDA board requests that the Scio Township Board to initiate and establish special assessment districts for Jackson and April Drive. The DDA will fund the resurfacing of the roads in 2008 for an amount not to exceed $250,000. The DDA requests that the special assessment district be structured to take in 50% of the expected resurfacing costs from the SAD property owners over a 5-year period, with the SAD collections going into the township held revolving fund.
Right, so the DDA paid for it and the money from the businesses went into the revolving fund. So that's what I'm saying. There was money generated from the DDA, then the business owners paid that back. So I was just saying revolving fund to me should be kept in the DDA. I mean, it doesn't have to be. I'm not the attorney, but I'm just saying from a practical standpoint, if I'm a DDO business owner, which I'm not, but I'm just sort of like you're gonna take that money and spend it on a subdivision wherever, sort of like, it seems sort of odd.
Well,
It should be for DDA. It should be for the geographic DDA.
but we don't set up a township revolving fund for a specific area of the township. So should we just go through? Sure. Bob, you have more?
Well, I'm agreeing with Roy, it's only logical if the businesses are funding it for this DDA, and you've all told me that this DDA has boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then it should be a revolving fund replenished by the businesses, and they should develop the SADs to do whatever roads they want to do. Dino Drive, we talked about that, there are 6 businesses there. Those 6 businesses should vote. 70% should say they want an SAD and pay the darn thing.
Right, okay, so talking with the DDA, and I had a coffee with Bob Stites regarding, we're supposed to be working with the DDA because there's roads in there. They don't have a committee within the DDA to do their roads. So that's where the road advisory committee comes in, because that's one of our charges. And that's where the road advisory committee would create a policy and recommend to the board to initiate a special assessment district for those business roads if they want to improve. And the township can initiate, and then if let's say Dino Drive parcel owners do not want their roads improved through a SAD, then they would have to have a 20% written objection petition as stated in Public Act 188. Then we would know one way or another. But the way that it was done was that they went and the DDA, this is what I've heard, the DDA was going to pay half of the paving, and then they were going to go knock on the doors of the business owners and ask them if they wanted to contribute.
When you say the DDA was going to pay half, where are they getting the money from?
They're getting the money from the tax, so they have a capture from all millages within the DDA. They have a capture, so if it's a parks millage, I don't know how much they capture, 50% or whatever, that's what funds the DDA. But that means if Dino Drive parcel owners do not pay, or the DDA pays half, that means anybody that's within the DDA will be paying to pave that road through their millages. And there are 2 residential Trailwoods and also Hunter's Trail that those residents would be paying for that. So to create a SAD, the idea was to create a special assessment district, have the township initiated, have the road advisory committee finally create a policy, and to go step by step. And we wouldn't be able to do Dino Drive this year anyway. But it would get us, on the ball to create a policy. So we have a policy for this special assessment, if it does go through, and for future road improvements under a SAD.
So what are we recommending? What are you saying? I'm still of a belief that the businesses in that DDA should be the ones that see the revolving fund, and also pay the SAD.
Right, but the revolving fund is something, just put that aside for right now. So Dino Drive has been brought up over and over again to pave. You've heard about that, right?
Yeah.
So if talking with the DDA and Bob Stites, working with the road advisory committee, because that's in our charge, they don't have that in their charge because they don't. But anyway, and they're not going to create a SAD because they don't do the roads, we do, as far as a committee. So this gives us an opportunity to work together to create a special assessment, recommendation to the board to initiate a special assessment for district for Dino Drive and have those business owners pay for it through, if they want it, through the special assessment. So as far as the township revolving fund, that's something that I guess the board needs to figure out what to do. If we just dissolve it and create another one for the whole township or whatever, but. Okay, Linda.
Well, so directly to your point, I have two comments, and I think you used the word create a policy, or words create a policy several times. It's pretty clear that the revolving fund has been stagnant because there wasn't a policy in place to bring the DDA and the Board of Trustees together for how the money should be spent. And it doesn't appear that that's still been resolved. So I think perhaps in our advisory committee, we could put together a suggestion for the Board of Trustees how the revolving fund might be presented to have the DDA and the Township Board create conditions mutually acceptable for the money to be spent.
Well, the money's not supposed to be spent. It's to be revolving.
Right.
Yeah, so we've got to be clear with that because it's been said that, oh, we'll just take that money and spend it on Dino Drive, but
Used, but let's use the word used. I think a revolving fund has a purpose. This one does not.
well, it was supposed to. So all the other SADs that we did in the township were supposed to be flowing through the improvement revolving fund, but for some reason, they didn't do that.
Which leads to my second point. So we have a brand new, I'm sorry, I don't know if she's the township manager or the
Yes.
township administrator. I'm still not quite clear on
Manager.
the title. And one of the things that's been very evident is that the township did not have anyone to lead the charge with special assessment districts. And if it's not someone's specific job to oversee them, details have been lost and just gone awry. So I guess it's yet to be seen whether that's something that can be put under the umbrella of the new township manager once she gets her feet underneath her. But until we have a township employee whose job description includes oversight of special assessment district proposals, we as the advisory committee don't really have anyone that we can interface with other than the Board of Trustees to get special assessments off the ground. We had several in 2022 that, were asking, please help us create a special assessment district. Some of them had meetings, some of them never even got that far. But then again, it just sort of stopped because there's
no administration.
right.
Yes.
And so I don't want to say, hey, you're not here, so we're going to make the township manager do this. But I strongly feel that we somehow need to assist the Board of Trustees in assigning special assessment districts to someone.
It's under her job description. So I'll be meeting with her on Friday. We have an appointment. So this is.
Well, one of the questions is one of the questions about the $140,000. Is that an open question?
That's the Township Improvement Revolving Fund.
Okay, so is it a question as to how we can spend it? Is that the question?
No, because we can't spend it. It's only to seed a future SAD. And to be,
I get it, but it's sad for the DDA businesses or sad for the township?
No, it's the SAD for the township. The Revolving Improvement Fund is created for the township, not a section of the township.
Okay. And who funded that?
It was created when April Drive and Jackson Plaza, yes, Jackson Plaza, when those special assessment districts were created, the DDA funded half, I believe.
Okay, so half the money came from businesses.
Well, and so this was to be a seed money, and the seed money to create this improvement revolving fund for future. So it says the DDA requests that the special assessment district be structured to take in 50% of the expected resurfacing costs from the SAD property owners over a 5-year period, with the SAD collections going into the township held revolving fund.
15% came from the businesses, is that correct? You said DDA. I'm trying to get to a conclusion here. If 50% came from the businesses, then by right, $70,000 would have remained in that geographic boundary of the DDA businesses. And if they want to SAD, that $70,000 is their revolving fund seed money. The other 70 is the townships. And there ought to be revolving fund because a SAD, by definition, is a loan that gets paid back over time to the township, right? I thought we established that. So the money has to come from somewhere to start paying contractors.
Well,
whatever.
in Public Act 188, under the Township Revolving Fund, it does state that the township may take up to 2 mils from the general fund and deposit it into the Township Revolving Fund for SADs. So for some reason, they decided to do it this way, which it is not under Public Act 188, what it says for that. So what we could do, since I'm gonna be meeting with Joyce, she was an emergency manager for the state. She knows about, she has a long history of all kinds of financials on every level of government. Talk with her and legal so we can put this to rest. And if it maybe we just need to dissolve the whole thing or just the money and revise it.
I'm just trying to inject some common sense into this. And I'm trying to set up the DDA as a whole separate entity because they're business and they're in a geographic boundary. And let them control what they want to do to their roads and have their own.
But the thing is that the DDA, go ahead, Roy.
I'll let you guys know. I just have a comment once you guys.
Okay, so the DDA can be dissolved after bonding is paid off or something, if the township, so what happens then? I mean, so there's a lot more to it than, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. But all the roads in the township, the roads do not belong to the DDA. They belong to actually the road commission, right? And then we have to pay we have to fund our own roads if we want them improved.
But that's for maintenance. A SAD is for improvement, for upgrading. That's a whole separate.
So what they've done is taken money out of the DDA and put it in the general fund and basically said, seed any. I know what you're saying, but
I don't like the commingling. I don't think it's fair.
But the way it's written, it seems like it's a general revolving fund for everybody. Whether it's right or not, I can't.
It hasn't been used, so apparently we're confused about what to do.
Well, welcome to Scio.
Well, that's why I'm trying to inject some common sense and say, let's propose.
Maybe awareness that it now exists is a step forward,
Why don't we make a recommend? Are you finished?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going around, I want Jeff or.
Okay, Jeff.
I'd like to make sure that I'm on the same page with everybody. So from what I understand, this whole thing, this revolving fund was established by both, was established by the Township Board. And that they made the special assessment district for these two roads, Jackson Plaza and April Drive. The DDA paid for the resurfacing of those roads in 2008, not to exceed $250,000 in total. And then they requested that the special assessment district that was placed on these two different locations, that they would take in 50% of the expected resurfacing costs, and that would be the seed money for this revolving fund. That was done over a 5-year period. Now, it says that the
Establish seed money for local roads.
an agreement as to the use of the funds will be restricted to conditions mutually acceptable to the DDA board and the Township Board. So to use this revolving fund, we have to get both the Board of Trustees and the DDA to agree on what those will be used for.
And the crazy thing is that the DDA had not even read the 2008. I provided it for them. They had, and then they read it. And so this is something that just kind of got lost. So, you know, maybe we need to make let's finish what.
Oh, I got a little bit more. Sorry.
Everybody, go ahead, sorry.
And then, so just reading Public Act 188, the idea of a revolving fund in its relationship to an SAD is that you use the revolving fund in lieu of having a bond.
Right.
So that then it's basically the township loaning the money out and being the bond issuer instead of actually, taking the place of the bond. So I just wanted to make sure that I understood all of this, and I don't think I had much more to say about that other than I think that this revolving fund, however it gets used, it states pretty clearly that the DDA and the Township Board have to agree on how that will be used.
But it does say that it's established, it's there. With those payments going into the Township Revolving Fund to establish the seed money for the local roads SAD program. It's for everything.
But
I'm not arguing if it's right or
Well,
wrong, I'm just telling what's written in the statement.
there's more to it though. In the resolution, I'm sorry. In the resolution, it says that an agreement as to the use of the funds will be restricted to conditions mutually acceptable to the DDA board and the Township Board.
I'm not saying that's not true.
Okay.
All I'm saying is that it's intended for more than just the DDA.
Understood.
That doesn't conflict with your statement.
They're
You're
both correct.
But the thing is that this is the resolution. This is just kind of the background there. So
I
that,
thought this was the resolution.
no, this is the resolution here. And there's nothing in the resolution regarding the DDA.
What's the end goal here? What is it we're actually trying to achieve with this? Because there's a lot of time on $140,000.
Well, we're supposed to make recommendations to the board, and this has to do with Public Act 188.
Does Scio Township need a seed fund? If it does, then we raise awareness. If it doesn't, we dissolve it. That's a decision.
Okay, so Dino Drive,
Let's not go into
Did we-
Dino Drive yet.
did-
Let's just talk about it. Let's
did
go
we-
with Bob and Patrick and then.
Did we not already talk about Dino Drive? That there were people on Dino Drive who didn't want to pave it? We'd already
we don't
established
know that yet because there was not a petition.
Maybe somebody should ask them.
Well, they have, but that's not how you're supposed to do a SAD. You don't go ask somebody if they want, oh, you're gonna pay money into having your road paved? No, okay.
They're not knocking on our door right now.
They never have been.
Why are we?
Because there's a park at the end of the Dino
I
Drive.
don't know why we're wasting time on this.
Yeah, the reason it came up in the first place, and was that in the 2022 Washtenaw County Road Commission improvement agreement for commercial roads, they proposed Dino Drive be improved. That was the impetus to start the whole thing.
Comes from that guy.
It's been there last year.
I've driven on it, it's not
Yeah,
that
but
bad.
that's, I think that came
It's
from
not that
the
bad.
township
No,
contacting them and
that was,
asking them.
that
to
was
put
the
that.
original impetus. It was not one of the members of the company on Dino Drive.
Bob, oh, you're finished?
No,
Or
I
no?
am, yes.
Sorry, we're just Bob, do you have?
I'm just gonna comment that we get sidetracked routinely. We were talking about road advisory resolution and charges. We got talking about collaborating with the DDA, and we seem to have migrated down to G3, which is Dino Drive Township Improvement Fund. We need to stick to the agenda and stay on target because it's getting confusing figuring out, and I think I'm with Ian, what are we really trying to do here?
Well, the DDA, we are supposed to be working with the DDA. That's in our charge.
That's the charge.
So the whole thing about working with the DDA, and this was brought up the last time, was now we have an opportunity to do something as a committee to create this policy and Dino, regarding a SAD and Dino having the township initiated.
That's G3, I'm okay with that.
Well, it's kind of, yeah. Well, I guess next time I'll put, our resolution and Dino drive together because of the DDA. And the PPE. Okay.
It's a broader comment. What are we doing creating, how much money do we have? And why are we creating funds that small that we can't keep track of?
We don't have administration or a finance department. We have one person. And we've been through, I don't know how many managers.
Yeah. But this is nuts.
Yeah.
So that's it. We can't solve that.
Well, I'm with Joyce Parker. I think she's going to help us get things straightened up. She has the background and she's not interim. She is permanent, hopefully. So is David Raleigh. But she has a lot more experience. So, and we do have some staff that's on the agenda to hire that will help us.
I didn't say, the DDA paid $250,000 to do those projects. Then the businesses reimbursed that, and that was how the revolving fund was set up. And obviously, I think it was a 5-year fund. So 2008, 2013, the 140 was in the township's account, revolving fund. Obviously now 10 years later, we haven't done anything with it. So part of me is like, do we even need a revolving fund? I'm guessing for part of those 10 years, a lot of people weren't even aware it existed. So do we really need it? Is it better off to dissolve it? Is one option. And if you were to dissolve it, I think you would invest those monies back into roads within the DDA, because that's where the money came from initially. Here again, that's just one option. Obviously, the language is you can invest it anywhere. Like I said, if you're a business owner, sort of like the money came from within the business. The first thing I would do is do some type of preventive maintenance on April Drive and Jackson Plaza, since those were the businesses that put that money in now 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So that just one thought. Obviously, we're not going to solve this tonight. And then secondly, on Dino, I agree. Like we should maybe next meeting come in and say, okay, we want to set up a special assessment district for them, that businesses, those businesses, 20 businesses, whatever that number is, they pay 50%. Then the DDA pays the other 50%. I think that's what the proposal is.
But why is the DDA paying for roads?
Because they have for the last 30 years. That's part of their charge. Yeah, they pay for all
commercial roads. That's in their charge? Because we've been told forever that they're not allowed to do improvements or maintenance. And then all of a sudden, that's what Sandy Egler's been telling us. I've heard it in meetings, and so.
Maintenance is always sort of great, but improvements, they paid for all phases of Jackson Boulevard, Zeeb Road, Baker Road, Wagner Road. That's why the DDA was established.
Well, yeah, but because of bonding.
And obviously they did April and Jackson Plaza in 2008. So they've been doing roads for 30 years. Obviously, here's a project.
And who oversaw those roads, the projects?
Road Commission.
The DDA did all of it?
Well, the DDA worked with the Road Commission. The Road Commission did the projects. A contractor did the projects. Road Commission oversaw the project. DDA funded it. Businesses funded through an SAD to pay 50% back, which established the revolving fund. But I'm just saying, we haven't touched the revolving fund for 10 years. Is there really a purpose to have this? It seems like it's a fund that no one's really keeping track of, and 10 years from now, we're like, tracking this.
But if you're gonna have SADs in the community, forget about DDA now, you still need seed money because, as Jeff said, he said it right. Instead of a bond, they're getting a loan from the township. Well, that money's gotta come from somewhere to start it, and then it gets paid back over time, right?
But we've done how many SADs since this period? We never used revolving fund.
Oh, have we?
Yes, we've done 20 SADs or more.
Since 2008.
But
We've
they,
never used this money, and obviously, if you look at the fund balances, the township has money to front, I guess that's what they've been doing, I'm not sure where but they have money. So it's sort of like, this little pot of money, seems like we're spending a lot of time, like Bob said, on $140,000 ENSAs are like.
So give the money back that the businesses put into it.
Or invest it into
And the rest,
infrastructure.
put it
within
into
DDA.
the township
Right.
fund.
Well, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think we need to make a proposal or a suggestion and float, I guess, both to the board of trustees as well as DDA that, you know, we see this money is not being properly used. And suggest that they either dissolve or clarify the means by which the funds can be used. I don't believe we have any special assessment districts teed up for 2023 at all, because we couldn't get anything straightened out last year. And so at this point in time, you know, we're probably past construction season by the time we have a special assessment district go through the hoops that it needs to go through. But we've got still communities interested in doing it. If we have some seed money, I think it would give some more latitude to the manager, because there are engineering costs that need to be paid, which we've been through before, cannot be paid out of the special assessment district itself, so the township has to fund them somewhere.
Well, not necessarily, the township can just say no to the SAD and let the businesses on Dino drive over.
But I'm also talking about green knolls and.
Right, no, but I'm just saying, until we've got someone in place, the township shouldn't want to, can say yes, the township can also say no. And without any administration in place, I don't know why we would say yes.
well, the thing is that the board agreed at the last, it was the May 9th meeting that, okay, so for this year, which we're kind of segueing into this conversation. So the board, the surplus funds from the 2013 SAD will be returned.
Back to the agenda.
This is part of the agenda because this is part of what you just brought up. So there's three parts to that. So that SAD money, the 1.6 million, is going back to the parcel owners. Number two, the road agreement, the Washtenaw County Road Commission agreement that I sent you today, because I just got it, the updated version, will be paid for through ARPA funds. Number three, the board wants a ballot for road funding for next year. So there will be no SADs until we figure out, and maybe there will be down the road, but if we have a township-wide millage, then that should be paying for the roads, except for private. Private roads, if they want that improved, will need a SAD. And they are under they have a little bit different regarding SADs. So the SAD thing, I think that other than Dino Drive, and it was only my suggestion that we could work on a policy and have the township initiate a SAD for Dino Drive, but then again, we don't even have to do that. And the more we talk about this, but we are supposed to be working with the DDA to maintain roads. That's in our charge. So we're back to, we just went around and now we're back to that.
So where are we right now? Are we still talking about the charge, or are we?
Yeah, we're
going-
still the
Okay.
charges.
Okay, so we'll come back to this.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in the charge that's changed? Like the tap has gone, obviously.
Correct.
And is there anything that we're trying to add?
They want us to, or it's been suggested, the millage bus food would fall under us as well. That is not in our charge. Anything transportation.
What?
So we have the what is it, AAATA? Yeah, Ann Arbor.
And the wave.
Yeah, and wave,
To do what?
for us to oversee that because we are transportation. They really want us
Oversee what? Do what? What's the action?
There are
There's a millage.
contracts that we pay AATA
Yeah.
to have service in Scio Township, and we pay the waived bus, which is the smaller commuter bus, to do business in Scio Township. And so it sounds like this board is asking us to take over the review. I believe both contracts are current for renewal.
There's a millage that's coming up for renewal next year and for us to oversee that, but also to find where the needs of the bus system.
That's an administrator task. It's not a subcommittee task.
Well, it's our committee to see where busing needs. Heritage Woods was approved.
Their weasel words in the charges, K is perform other functions as the township board may delegate to the committee from time to time. They can delegate what they want.
Just tell me what the task is. I'll do
I
it.
agree.
I think send it back to the board, ask them to update our charge and off we go.
Well, if I could speculate on what this particular item is, I would think that they're wanting us to analyze whether we want to include this millage again. I would imagine the answer is yes, we want to renew it, but that's what it sounds like they're kicking over to us to actually consider whether the township should renew this bus millage.
Well, it will be on the ballot, but is it the same amount? Do we need to expand the bus system because we have developments going in?
That requires a subcommittee. That's like the fire services subcommittee that I was on. Because when you ask a question like that, my questions would be, what services are they providing? What benefits are we getting? What's the cost? And what's the analysis say? What's the cost benefit analysis of the whole darn thing? And that requires some real detailed analysis, just like we did on the fire services committee. We're not gonna be able to do that here in a 2-hour committee, I can tell you that.
No, so we could create subcommittees within our.
So if that's the charge, and I don't know, if they're asking us, should we renew the millage? That requires detailed analysis.
Well, from what you're saying, it's already going to be on the ballot, so then that's not what they're asking us.
Right, because it will be up for a vote, and they want it at the same time that we have our road funding. So it's really, yeah, you're right. I believe we need to have a subcommittee, but also we should be working with PPP and also the Planning Commission. Because as these developments go in, we need to know what the services or that we need for the township.
You need to ask the board what they want us to do with that. To me, it's too vague. What are the deliverables they're looking for? Again, give me the task. Tell me which mountain to take. That was my job, to take mountains, okay? Just tell me what mountain to take.
And how far up you are.
Bob, do you have time to go to the township and try and find the AATA bus file from when we looked at that last time?
Yes, can we just ask somebody to pull it for us?
Before we do that, I'm gonna get back, what's the task? I'm happy to take on the task. We can do the research if we have to. Define the task.
The bus millage and the needs of the township.
That's vague. You need to be specific.
Let's ask them to update our charge.
Or what specifically about the bus millage?
Yeah, exactly.
They want us to take over transportation of the township, all aspects of it. So bus would fall under that.
You had it before?
Pardon me?
It was sort of
had
a,
it before?
it was sort of a phantom subcommittee. I was actually on the AATA phantom subcommittee.
Okay, I was gonna ask, because I'm gonna be like, well, what was the work involved?
Wasn't it 10 years ago?
Liaison with the AATA to try and get the bus routes in Scio Township that we thought we needed at the time, and then kept funding for what the costs were for those routes.
How do you pick on where they go? I mean, that's the key thing as well.
That's a bigger discussion, but yes, let's see if we can get them to update the charge
That's why
so
you
that
need
we
a
have a.
subcommittee to get into all that detail.
Yeah.
We could create subcommittees within our committee here.
I don't even know how stops are selected, which route. I don't even know like how we interact with Ann Arbor over this.
There's a big folder somewhere. We just have to find it.
You can invite them in.
We have them come into town.
They're happy to come in and explain that to us or a subcommittee.
They came in and talked to Chap.
Yeah, they came and talked to TAP. But they,
Oh, Was the bus under TAP?
I don't think so.
No, we were just looking at all aspects of non-motorized transportation. And so as part of our beginning to understand the transportation system, it was important to had WAVE come in, and then we had AAATA come in.
Right. More education.
This education, yeah.
Okay.
I feel like TDP has abandoned the idea of being responsible for transportation.
Parks, pathways, and preserves. Is that what it is now?
Yeah.
We had a point
Less
where we
transportation.
suggest a resolution to the Board of Trustees to update the Local Roads Advisory Committee charge.
Is there anything else to be updated?
Ask them to update the charge and then that way puts the onus back on them. So
I think
No,
need to give them specific
yes, we
language.
are the recommending body. Don't give us any more work than we have to. That's why we're here to create, to figure this out. But the whole transportation they want here, and this is coming from Jan Culbertson as well.
Could we go through this charge line by line to see, are we doing this, how are we doing it, or whether we want to even continue doing it?
I think that's the
Sure.
question that's on my mind. There's now 12 items. We can't work on 12 items. How do we, so do we want to cut it down? How do we prioritize? We need to work through those questions.
How about if we go around and Bob, you start with A and then we'll just discuss it as we go.
What do you want me to do? Read it?
Mm-hmm.
Formulate a plan for the township's local roads that balances the needs for road maintenance and improvement with the natural environment and climate sustainability.
So do we have a plan?
No.
Okay. So I mean, is that something that we think we should be doing?
We formulate a plan for the township local roads that balances the needs for road maintenance and improvement with the natural environment and climate sustainability. So what does that last part mean?
I don't know what the climate sustainability is.
It's pretty open-ended.
Okay, well, I get the first part, road that balances needs.
I'll designate you for A.
You can be the subcommittee meeting.
Thanks. It's pretty open-ended. I mean, I don't think we'll go through these, but some of them, especially if some of these, I guess, were generated, you're saying 10 or 12 years ago.
Back in the,
So
I think right after the township revolving fund.
Since when Elle was on the committee.
In the spirit of moving us forward and maybe getting the clarity that we're seeking, then I think that there's the question is that we want to send back to the Board of Trustees. What is meant by this natural environment and climate sustainability of line A in our charge?
Okay.
Please help us understand better, since we don't seem to, I agree, it's very vague. I don't know how.
Okay.
Could they come up with some reasons? I don't have any right off the top of my head. Maybe they had something in mind.
strikes me as basically like, don't just build new roads through the middle of everything.
Well,
That's
remember,
balancing it.
when you pave a road that's been dirt road, you gotta widen it. And a lot of trees generally come down. So you're affecting the environment.
Have to is a strong word.
But on the other hand, we're gonna get into one of these and there's gonna be safety. And how do you do
Here it
trade-off?
comes, yeah. B says assist the township to ensure that maintenance and improvements to public roads consider safety issues such as fire and emergency response, as well as pedestrian and non-motorized transportation.
That seems pretty clear to me, though. There's very clear items in there. We need to make sure that fire and emergency response can get down our roads.
Okay, so are we to go out there and travel the roads or as we create a SAT? I don't know.
I think it's when we're thinking about things, have that in the back of our mind.
If there were issues now,
So
the
for
fire chief
example,
or someone else could be bringing it up.
Right. So let's say we decide not to replace a bridge or a culvert. It's gonna be difficult for a fire truck to get to the other side of that road. Or we let a road go so bad, it's hard for emergency vehicles to get down the road. Or let the road get so narrow. So those are some of the safety things that I'd be familiar with, you know what I'm saying? As far as providing, you're trying to provide safe access for people using the road, but also emergency services.
Or if
And also,
make
we
the
also
radius
mentioned
of a corner too
non-motorized
tight
too,
to
so.
swing into the opposing traffic. These are real things.
So as new developments go in, we're supposed to go out there and
It says public roads.
public road, well, but a lot of these are public that are going in. I mean, I know some of them are private, but
Well,
I don't
we're out
understand.
there, as long as we're building it to some standards, and we know these standards, you know, is what the fire departments, you know, emergency services, you know, if someone said, okay, let's only build a 10-foot wide road, is that, you know, then I think that's where, you know, police and fire are like, ooh, it's gonna be challenging.
Park Road there, they're gonna be closing some of it. They're gonna be repairing them or doing something with the bridge. I mean, that's somewhere where, when we're talking about that, having fire safety or fire response in the back of our minds is kind of makes sense to me. But yeah, okay.
I see a lot of this as boilerplate, you know, you call it
Yeah.
boilerplate,
Mhm.
just to say stuff to say it.
yeah, because unless we're out there, well, I guess that's where, when you, at the planning commission, you would give us a report and if there's something in there. But I mean, I don't know what we're supposed to do with this, actually.
I mean, the fire chief, or one of his designees, reviews new plans, for fire safety, maybe not all of them, but many of them, especially larger projects. So I know that is accounted for in planning commission things. I would think that if we were gonna go on a road diet or pave, you know, a road that has not previously been paved, that if there's any sort of fire or emergency response considerations that need to be included, that, you know, we should consider those and not just act without that in mind. I mean, I think the pedestrian and non-motorized transportation portion of that is probably a larger consideration for us, because a lot of our, you know, roads don't have pedestrian access or other non-motorized transportation access that is not already just part of the road that's shared with motor vehicles. So I do think that is probably something that we would have to pay more attention to, right? If we're doing work in an area and we could improve pedestrian safety, let's say a crossing area, then that is something that we should probably identify. And if there's places that are unsafe for pedestrians already, then those are probably also areas we should identify to the board.
Which leads into number C.
You're right.
Which is the same thing.
Help the township to integrate public safety for pedestrian and non-motorized transportation as well as fire and emergency response.
So on B and C, I'm thinking about these new fire stations. If the money comes up for those, we've got to think about pedestrian transportation. We've got to think about sidewalks in that area. Because there's going to be fire trucks, you know, I don't know how often they make runs. But the Wagner is a busy street. And so there's an opportunity for us to, if that's not in the plan, we should look to see if it is. And if it's not, we need to at least raise a hand and say, you've got to be aware of this.
That
Well,
was the last time anyone walked on Wagner.
People
I mean,
run, people run on
drive-
and bike on it all the time, but
I drive to and from the cube regularly.
Of course, there's no sidewalks.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. At the moment, there is no
So,
sidewalks.
no,
If
it's
you wanna walk
exactly
on
why,
Wagner,
that's
yeah.
why it's potentially dangerous.
so
No, I
with the,
agree, but
Yeah.
now we're getting into,
For sure. And we haven't talked about that at all. That's behind all of this.
yes.
I was gonna suggest, because there's actually a housing subdivision that in the plans to go in on Wagner Road right next to the fire station, that we should perhaps, if we're curious about this specifically, go and look at the planning commission notes.
but they have a sidewalk there already. for
They have a
that,
sidewalk that literally goes
that
right up
part.
to the property of the fire station.
Yeah.
And then a new plan for how to get across Liberty and Wagner pedestrian.
Yeah, and so this brings up a point, because I know there's part of it that is not sidewalked, I think on the other side where there's a lot more people. But maybe that's what we need to do is have a map of sidewalks. Do we have that? Do we have a map? We have a map of roads.
We had sidewalks in the uplands.
Right, but I don't think anyone's mapped the sidewalks in the township. The road commission tracks roads, they don't track sidewalks, so
Is
unless the
Townsend-
township has such a thing, I don't think it really exists.
Maybe that's what this means, this A, this B and C. Yeah, I don't.
It's not real clear.
I am happy, not saying that you're assigning tasks right now, but I am happy to look into seeing if there's already an existing map of sidewalks in the township,
Would you
or
please?
seeing what it would take to generate a map.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So we have you down as B and C for right now.
All right.
To do.
Whatever they mean.
Yeah, and on the main roads, I mean, there definitely should be sidewalks. And then pathways, they don't cover sidewalks. I know that they're doing some sidewalk work over in Scio Ridge but that's, I think, a one-time thing, right? Is that?
No, sidewalks are part of the pathways preserves millage. I mean, charge, it is, sidewalks are included beside pathways. But the focus really has become more parks and preserves. There's a limited amount of money, and there's not money really. Let's say the goal was, let's put sidewalks on all of our primary roads. Pathways millage is no way gonna fund that. I mean, 'cause
Who's
really
gonna use them?
Focus was.
We don't have the population density to spend the money.
So.
I'd use a sidewalk on Wagner. I hate biking down that thing with Ford F-350s with their mirrors way out here.
I understand, but you're not in Ann Arbor, you're in Scio Township. You don't have the population density to afford the cost. That's just reality.
Well, when we talk about the millage, the road millage, maybe we need to have money in there for sidewalks and culverts. But we'll get to that. I mean, now that we're, we're supposed to be for the safety issues. Okay, so D, evaluate funding options, special assessment districts, state and federal support, Washtenaw County Road Commission matching funds, developer participation, property owner participation, millage for the township's road network in the near and long term, and make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees. That should be our only charge because that is huge. But yeah, so I guess having a SAD policy that is solid, and of course we can create it and then would have to go in front of the manager. She could work with us and then the board approval. I mean, have it. Matching funds, well, that's kind of an automatic because I don't think, except for the COVID, 2 years of COVID that we did not take advantage of because we didn't do roads, we didn't do anything. So we lost the grant. I think once it was used for Enterprise Drive. Developer participation. So I know there's development agreements for PUDs, PUDs, right? Mm-hmm. And I know that they've had some fire, they donate some to fire, a lot to pathways and maybe utilities, but could they do something for roads?
Could we make a list, because it was brought up very well, that Arbor Point has a fund within their homeowners association that was mandated towards road improvement that we, as Scio Township, didn't know anything about. There's funds available, but it should be memorialized somewhere in a list so that we can go back and look for these things as they're promised and who the contact is to ask about them.
Well, and I think other things as well, like if they're donating money for trees, who's keeping track of that?
Well, no one, that's what I'm saying. As it happens, we create some sort of a database.
We do have a new IT person, but he's overwhelmed trying to get us. So data and development agreements.
So this item points to maybe a stronger relationship with the planning commission.
Jeff?
Yes.
Well, as they bring them forward, if you could, bring that sort of detail to us, then we can get it into our database. We've got to start somewhere. We've got 1 or 2 points that we can think of right now.
The developer participation part.
Yeah,
Specific to the developer agreements.
I understand you guys are ready to push for sidewalks now, which is great.
Yeah.
That's a major step forward.
Oh, yeah, so sidewalks, that would. Yeah, because if we can, of course, we don't want to diminish the other things that they're donating to. But, you know, I think safety should be first. You know, and they're contributing to more traffic and more population and whatnot, so. So development.
Sidewalks that can get pedestrians to public transportation.
Right. When it comes to developer participation in PUDs, it's typically they will come to us, I think, I've only done a few of these, they will come to us with what they want to, their community contribution to be, their public benefit to be, but oftentimes the planning commission says, well, do this, and this as well, or, you know, outlines a couple of things that the planning commission would like to see in the PUD, either in addition to or as opposed to whatever was initially offered by the developer. But I think that, if the road advisory committee wants anything specific from these PUDs, then we should at least state that to the planning commission, like, you know, be on the lookout for these things. Sidewalks heard, is there anything else in particular that we, the road advisory committee, would like to see or would watch out for in PUDs?
Is there a list that the planning commission has when a PUD comes in front, like this is what we ask for every single time, or does it depend on the development?
I think it depends on the development. I can see if there's a list, but I don't.
Yeah, like a guideline of what they.
It just has to be a public benefit, and it's about as defined as that.
Public benefit, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like our churches.
So if we could maybe include our own public benefit, I mean, like, you know, sidewalks,
Sure. If there's something
definitely.
that we as a committee are looking for, then I can tell that to the planning commission.
Okay, so the other funding, developer participation, property owner participation. What does that mean? Because really.
Well, it's in the context of the SAD, isn't it? Because it's still in the parentheses.
Okay. And millage. So this is.
Let's see, it's not necessarily tied to SAD. SAD is just one of the many things listed in there.
Right. Are there other ways that property owners would be participating in funding other than an SAD or millage?
If someone owns a piece of property that's in a spot, we'll take Wagner since we're talking about it. And they own the land but haven't developed. And we've got sidewalks from the corner of Liberty because of the new development that we have it for the fire department. We could tell the property owner of that next piece of land that as they build on it, they are responsible for putting in the sidewalk to continue the progress up towards Scio Church. That's the only thing I can think of, type of action.
It's good to be aware of, yes. And grants, I know I put that in there regarding the grants. We don't have anybody at the township to do grants. So I would love for the township to get on board with that. Jessica knows how to do grants at every single level, federal, all the way down to whatever, but she's overwhelmed and she doesn't have staff. So we're kind of stuck. And the Drain Commission and the WC, and the Road Commission, they had a grant for us. Can't do anything about it because nobody knows how to fill them out, which is really sad because other townships are taking advantage of it. But I'm going to write down grants and just somehow get the township to, and maybe Joyce can help us with that. Because I think that, you know, if we can get a culvert paid for, it's something. Okay, Jeff. Oh, anything else on D?
All right. E, clarify the township's policy and role in a road or sidewalk special assessment district, and once approved by the township board, work to help implement SAD policy. Are we clear on the township's policy for SADs?
No.
I think that that is a clear charge for us, that we need to clarify the township's policy and role and how these SADs are done. We're basically the SAD committee at this point.
Well, Ian started on it and then there was all kinds of things going on.
Yeah, we just kind of got sidetracked and
Well, and what Linda said earlier, we didn't have a manager or we didn't have administration. And that's a huge piece. We really need to have that. But I think when I talk with Joyce, I'll get her input on it. And I'm pretty sure that's one of her job duties, which it's a long list that she has.
yeah, I think we'll come back to it. I think
Okay.
it's fine. I don't know that we'll do it now. I think funding's gonna be the next big one.
F, review WCRC proposals for matching fund projects, including 1, conventional local road match, 2, drainage local road match, 3, local road culverts and bridges, and provide recommendations for WCRC match projects to the township board in keeping with WCRC deadlines. Formulate proposals for independent, non-WCRC work.
What does that mean? That formulate proposals for independent?
Contractors other than Washtenaw County Road Commission that can work on SADs, I think is where they're trying to go there. We've had this discussion before.
If you want to hire a contractor to do a road improvement other than the road commission, you know, prepare plans and do a project.
Bidding and the whole,
We did a few of those, right? Previous.
So that goes back to the Washtenaw engineering discussion we had several months ago, and it was not the right way to do it, but then there was no oversight from the township.
yeah, so it goes back to. And that matching grant, that's only once a year and
Yeah.
when we do our agreements and we just, and as long as we have an agreement, then we can take advantage of that grant.
In item 2, there used to be a conventional local match and a drainage match, but now it's combined into one. There used to be 2 separate matching programs.
So those should be combined.
Okay, so that would,
You can, but
so that would be, well, I guess we just change that to WCRC matching grant,
sure.
okay, or just take that out. Okay. Well, the local road culverts and bridges,
I think there's still matching funds for those. If you have a failed bridge or a failed culvert, I believe there's still matching money, but obviously that was 5 years ago, so I don't know exactly what's changed.
Well, that goes back to what we were trying to do with your list. Roy was, make suggestions for next year, what we would like to
Right,
see.
exactly. That's what the list I provided was basically what they had done 14, 15, 16, just projecting those out. You know, wasn't anything mystery. It was really just using what we've done in the past and then projecting it forward.
so we need to include culverts in our, and bridges.
Yeah, you can, but how much, I mean, the good news is less bridges than there are culverts, but on
Okay,
the other hand, is the road commission's, taking the lead on that. I mean, of all these 12, we're not gonna be able to do all this stuff anyways. So maybe leaving the bridges up to the road commission would be just fine.
okay, okay, so we'll just leave it in and then the bridge part of it. Okay, Patrick, I think you're,
Yeah, so I think G is related to A in terms of balancing.
Please read it.
Analyze the potential for particular road strategies to negatively or positively impact nearby residents and or the rural nature of a particular road or neighborhood.
Seems pretty clear to me. I mean, you wouldn't want a big wide
Super highway on
thoroughfare on Park
South
Road.
Road.
Unless you want sidewalk.
Like an arrow.
Again, this.
But I think Patrick's right. It's like A and G are sort of interrelated.
Yes.
maybe we can just combine that into So Park Road is a perfect example of this, right?
Balance, right?
Yeah, okay, balance. So we're gonna take out all your trees and put in the super, okay. Or not, but we have to weigh those things. Okay, Roy, go ahead.
H, advise the township on construction standards for roads and related drainage, including such issues as maintenance of existing roads and shoulders, black tops, which is, I don't know what that, but asphalt roads, I guess, concrete and gravel, dust control, landscaping, tree protection, tree and weed trimming, snow removal and salt application, signage and road markings, drainage above and below ground truck, traffic limitations and street illumination.
Who's gonna take that task on?
WCRC.
Yeah, we'll leave that designated to the road commission. I think that's your job anyways, right?
Yeah, construction standards, right. We can't tell them to just put in all concrete or all asphalt or.
And I keep looking at snow removal and salt applications.
Yeah, I mean, we can make recommendations, but they're gonna do what they're gonna
Do,
do.
right?
Unless we're gonna fund, say, okay, we're gonna here's $500,000 because we want more salt.
You're
Strike
special
that.
salt for us.
Should
Should we
we,
just strike it? I mean, really, it's a road commissioner's responsibility.
We want to minimize it instead of strike it. We had a discussion several meetings ago about trying to find some speed control signage
oh,
that might
yeah.
sort of fall, or it could also be under
That could
public
be
safety
under B.
or
It's under B.
yes, it could.
So could we move signage up to?
Put it under B for safety, whatever you want.
Who would like to I'm taking notes on these. Who would like to write this up and then, so it's more, I think Bob is, no, I'm kidding, Bob. So the other Bob, so that we could have this and then we could go through it with the correct wording because, I mean, how we want this because yeah, I don't see us, the only thing is that if somebody comes to us and says, you know, my road is really dark, we would like to have street lights. And under Public Act 188, we could have a SAD for that.
So it was a dark skies township.
Right.
I wish it was a noise
But you
reducing.
can also have, it's called Detroit Edison. They do that. Street lighting is under, I mean, that's generally what most communities do. The township, I mean, you just have them. Detroit Edison will set those up and if that's really what they want.
Through DTE.
I mean, they're gonna assess the people, obviously it's not free, but
So
I would not get into street lighting if I was a township.
If you want to send me the notes from each of the ones, I haven't been taking notes, I'll rewrite the whole thing, but I still contend H should just go away.
what do you think? Just strike out H?
Yeah, I
If
would
you
make a
want to-
recommendation to the board that H is really the responsibility of WCRC. You might leave an H and say, we collaborate with WCRC on road items related to the township.
Yeah, because the signage, we can't do anything about signage. That's, yeah, all of this.
Yes, it really have all that.
Okay, well, I'm going to cross that off.
Should we start again? Are you I?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Reading this. Partner with the Transportation Alternatives Planning Committee and the Planning Commission to integrate sidewalks, pathways, crosswalks, pedestrian signals, and signage, bike lanes, trails, and other traffic calming safety features.
So obviously we need to update the Transportation Alternatives Planning Committee to PPP, Parks, Preserves, and Pathways.
Otherwise, it's okay.
I think so.
I like all of that.
Yeah, that fits us, I believe. Go ahead, Linda.
Collaborate with the Downtown Development Authority to maintain roads within the DDA district. I think that's sort of, it's already there.
Okay.
But we need to collaborate with the DDA, so.
Maybe we could have a meeting with them or part of their, maybe 15 minutes, part of their meeting that we join them or they join us or something?
Do we have a rep on DDA here?
Maybe,
Okay, Linda, fine, great.
but they meet on the second Monday every other month.
So are you our pathway to collaborating with the DDA?
I probably are, yes. The question is, do we want to try and go to the DDA or should we make the DDA come to the RAC?
Could you look into that for us?
We can.
Sure, okay. Then-
I was gonna just suggest that it seems like the only thing really there is that the board is asking for the DDA and the road advisory committee to speak with one voice, right? And not come to them with two different things, right? That we come together with a plan and then that plan is the board. So if the DDA has something road improvement wise that needs to happen, then they should be communicating with the road advisory committee.
So in the DDA charge or bylaws or whatever, what does it say? Because if it doesn't include us and they're doing their own roads.
Can't drive on.
So, but then we have this. So if you could find out what, how this works, because if not, we could just strike this from the road advisory committee. It should be congruent, I think, in their bylaws and our charge. I will look. Okay, thanks.
Perform other functions as the township board may delegate to the committee from time to time.
Straight that.
Exactly.
You can try.
Maybe we should ask them, what else do you have in mind for us? Because, just because it's on the charge doesn't mean we have to do it. No, I'm kidding. We can just ignore it.
How do they delegate that stuff to us? Like, when will we know that we've been delegated to?
Well, yeah, so that I told you what they wanted was the bus, putting that under us. So that's one of the things. I'm trying to think if they said anything else. They kept mentioning sidewalks, but that's already in our charge. And there was, Jan, I know Jan and the ESTF people group, somebody from there, I think her name's Kathy, emailed a while back and said, oh, we want you to do something about net zero and whatever. And I was like, what are we supposed to do with that? I don't know. But I told them, right now we have a lot on our plate, so could we just put that aside for a while?
So we're not doing that.
Not yet, and the board did not recommend that. It was only an email from, I think her name was Kathy M. Does that sound familiar?
I'm not sure.
Okay, should I ask them if there's any other ideas that they have to delegate to us, or should we just keep it quiet and then if they?
Let's rework the charge
Okay.
and we can address that again next year. We have plenty to do.
Okay, so
Can we ask them to help us prioritize? We can't take all this on.
Or do we need to have do we need them to let us make subcommittees that are taking care of these little things?
Right.
well, we could do that because we created the subcommittee for the funding presentation, which
Was it comprised of only members of this
No.
committee?
No.
Okay.
but
Two members from
the board didn't create that subcommittee, right? It was the not the
We
DDA.
created
Well,
it.
but it still gets down to, it would be nice to have a prioritized list so that we can then do it, because if we start creating subcommittees on all of this, we're gonna be meeting multiple times a week.
We've got 12 items here. If there's 3 people on each committee, we need 36 people, or each of us serving on 4 subcommittees. It's not
So
practical.
right now, the priority is the road funding, the ballot initiative for next year, and we need to have a plan. So we have to have a plan, and then what the needs are, how much and the other thing is that if it's going to be on the primary, which has always been August, at a state level, they're talking about having the primary in June. So which means we have to have our ballot language.
January. Probably.
Yeah, it's two months before, and there's 2 different types, like if it's a resident initiated or government initiated. So I asked about the schedule for that, so they're looking into it for me.
Finalized in March and approved.
Well, yeah, but now it's being they're changing the election schedule or they're talking about it, so this is.
I think a lot of these things are just gonna be in the background. Like you said, right, next year the focus is gonna be the millage, if that's really what it is. Some of the stuff it's in the background, so you're looking at something like millage. Do we wanna talk about non-motors? Do we wanna talk about this, talk about that? Because I don't think we're gonna have a subcommittee on all 12 of these.
No.
Well, the thing with subcommittees anyway, what we do is if we want to develop a subcommittee, we ask the public for additional volunteers. That's what we do with the fire thing. David Reed was on it.
Right, but the fire committee, that was something different because there was no other
No,
larger.
My point is, if we want to develop a subcommittee, it doesn't have to be only us. One of us can lead the subcommittee and we can ask the public for additional, well, you need 3, 4, 5 people.
Well, and the other committees, PPP and, anybody else that's involved
Site
with.
planning could also be, and the DDA, at least for this particular situation. We can start picking off a few that are doable.
Should we try to get back to the agenda?
Okay, so for this, anything else with this? Because I think if we polish it up and narrow it down, that it will help all of us.
So to be clear, what we're asking is Jillian's gonna provide Bob Groden with her notes from the discussion we've just had. Bob's gonna hammer something together and bring it to the next meeting so we can look at it again and see if that's what we're trying to, or if we need to refine it
If
further.
anybody else wants to send me their notes, I'll integrate them.
I think you've captured what we were writing, so I get something over your shoulder.
Oh, yeah, and Bob, you're taking minutes, right?
Taking comments as they go.
Okay. All right, so that's it for that. How to design, so the corners effective speed, the speed article that you sent, so I guess that kind of falls into our charge, but then that, that's really up to the road commission.
Can we not?
Information, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just information. It's under discussion, so if anybody has.
Yeah, it was something that I thought that, it would just be interesting to share
Mhm.
with the group, but also, I'm still not entirely clear on our relationship with Washtenaw County Road Commission. I was under the impression that we could request deviations from whatever standard practice would be, right? If standard practice would say that this needs to be a very wide corner radius, and we said, no, we would prefer to have a sharper corner here for safety purposes. Is that something that we could say to the commission, or it's whatever they decide and that's it?
So, yes, so the question is, let's say, are you talking about like a new development, or are you talking about the redoing of a current road, or both?
Why not both?
Yeah, I mean, the development one is sort of like a little easier, just because like, okay, it's a new development, and it's like, okay, this is, the challenge is, there's standards for the whole county, so I don't see them being, but if there's a special case, let's say this development is more pedestrian driven, there's gonna be a lot more people walking around in whatever this, new side development on whatever in the Scio Township. That's where I think you want to go there with reasons why you think we need tighter radiuses, versus let's say there's a development where there's mostly large trucks, which need, bigger radiuses. So, if you're just like, okay, there's no trucks really in this type of development, smaller vehicles, smaller trucks, there's like, delivery trucks and cars and a lot of pedestrians, like, okay, you'd want to go there with reasons why. And same thing, I guess, if they're redoing the development, Jackson Plaza, those roads in there. It's like, okay, there's a lot more residential areas in there. It's really not industrial. It's even opposite on Jackson. There's no real trucking in there that I'm aware of. So that's why I think you want to justify why you're trying to do tighter radius, because you're trying to do pedestrian safety. Because obviously, smaller the intersection, it's quicker people are going to get across those. So I think that's where we'd have to have a specific project in mind and why we want to do something less than the standard. Because those standards are recommendations, so sometimes it's like a range. So does that answer?
I mean, yeah, it sounds like the answer is yes, that we can say we would like to we would like to deviate from whatever the standard recommendation would be here for these purposes. And then, I guess, is it ultimately up to Washtenaw?
Yeah, I mean, it's their road, so end of the day, they could say yes or they could say no.
Jeff, just two pieces since I've done this a couple of times. So there's two kinds of roads in Scio Township. When a developer comes with a new plan, it's either gonna be private roads or public roads. So if it's public roads, you do have to take the fact that Washtenaw Road Commission has specific standards that they're going to require the engineers to put into those roads, which were all drawn up before those roads ever made it to the planning commission. And they've already got all their lot numbers. And so if you're starting to ask them to widen or narrow roads, it changes monetarily, it's going to change their engineering, which is going to make developers very uncomfortable. But if they're private roads, you actually, as a planning commission, have some pull, both with OHM, the engineering firm, which is the consultants for Scio Township that does the reviews on all of those engineering developments before they even make it to the planning commission. They have to have a letter. And so the point person, if you really wanted to initiate this with private road new development, would be to talk to OHM and bring this to them and say, this is something we think you should look at and take into consideration with future. But it's still difficult because people have already, drawn their roads. They've got all of their site laid out. And if you ask them to change things by 5 feet one way or another, it changes many other pieces. But if it's an existing road that is a high traffic or high accident zone, or a zone where you can see children are crossing the road and it's dangerous, but an accident hasn't happened yet, I think that's the point where you can start going to the county and saying, with OHM, and saying, I see a clear and present danger, and I think we can reduce. But OHM is the point. I think that introduction of this article would actually make some difference and people get some tread. I have specific people in mind.
Sure, yeah, please.
Okay. Offline from this.
All right.
Anything else regarding this item?
Thank you for concluding it.
Thank you.
And thanks for sharing them. About the 2 or 3 articles you sent them. Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Happy to.
Never thought.
Try not to drown you, Lionel.
Well, it is in our charge for safety, right?
Drowned us?
Yeah. G1, so this is, Christy had let us know that our November meeting fell during the election, which is now 9 days, it's a period instead of just the 1 or 2. Now it's in person for 9 days. So we, November 15th was available, so we will be meeting November 15th at 6:30, it's still Wednesday.
Has Christy changed it in the?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Website's changed.
Great, yeah, and there was another, we thought maybe we could, was it November 8th? And she says, you don't want to do that because it's just gonna be a mess.
The day after the election.
Yeah.
So.
The grants we talked about earlier, and unfortunately,
Can we take one step back just to
Sure,
talk
I'm
about
sorry.
the days? Are we meeting on July 5th?
That is another tough one.
well, do you want to take a vote? And if, who's available, or should we have a vacation?
Yeah, I'm available. How many, can we get a quorum on July 5th? We don't need to vote, just, knowing your vacation plans.
I don't know yet.
I'm not away, I'm gonna be here,
So how many people will be absent?
maybe.
Did you say maybe? So that would leave 4 of us? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and you know what, yeah. I don't know.
We have a vacancy.
Yeah, Don Nichols, and it is on the website if you know of anybody that's interested in roads, Al. Officially.
We have a lot of fun. Come join us.
I can pull a chair up if you want.
On the website, there's under I'm trying to think of the tab. It's,
Under democracy, isn't it?
yeah,
Democracy, Township, Board, Commissions and Committees, and then Roads Advisory Committee.
oh no, there's a tab that you can apply.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
And
Or you could just write a letter.
yeah, send it to the manager if you're interested.
Please.
Yeah, Township Board, something like that. It'll go through the right.
But getting back to July 5, it sounds like we may have only 4 humans.
And we need to have 5 because
Well, let's,
We can get a little closer and
Yeah,
see.
let's
I
get a
don't know that
little
we need to have a
closer and see
vote, but it looks like it's gonna be tight. So.
okay, if you could let us know because we have to let the public know by a certain time. You know, like
I'm
2
not
weeks ahead.
available.
You're not available.
Back to the homeland,
Oh,
the other homeland.
nice. Okay, July 5th. Okay. Oh, okay, so the grants, I've already shared that with you.
Can I just say one thing? So going back to Joyce and, we don't have anybody that can help with grants this year. There's 2 grants listed there. The first grant is just the first tranche of a larger grant. And there will be more opportunities to go after that funding if we can pull together the team for 2024, 2025. It looks like that goes on for a bit. Second grant, I think it's July 10th, and there's no way that's gonna happen.
Well, and no matter, I mean, there's a lot of other grants out there too. We get emails all the time, but we don't have the staff to do it. And to add something to Joyce with her huge list is,
I meant more just as a future directing.
Yeah.
Can she help us if we do ever get a financial person?
yes, if we had a finance director. Grants, I will talk with her about grants as well.
Future opportunities for grants, maybe. Couch it, so not now. I think we've done the revolving fund.
Do we want to talk more about it? No, we have a recommendation, right? I mean, we're.
should we formally have a resolution? Yeah. Vague sort of use it or dissolve it.
I think the question was take it to the DDA and ask.
Well, and the other thing is, Joyce, I could ask Joyce about it as well, because she's gonna have the background and, have her read it, have legal and say, what do we do with this? Because it wasn't done properly, according to Public Act 188. So if we dissolve it, does it just give it to the DDA and they can figure it out?
Well, I don't mean that. It just says, since the DDA and the board have to collaborate, maybe we should make a resolution. I'll bring that to the DDA and then after they look at it, we can bring it to the board.
I think legals needs to look at it first.
Oh, did we already jump the grants?
Yeah, we just talked
That
about
was
that.
fast. All I heard was that, the first item.
Oh,
the
sorry.
culvert. That's all right.
Well, it's just that we don't have anybody to do the grants for us, to fill out the applications or know what they're doing. And as I said, Jessica knows how to do them, but she's swamped, she's short-staffed, and we have Joyce that just came on. So I will talk to Joyce about plans, for grants and how we can have you take advantage of future opportunities.
Do we need a resolution on that? Would it help it? No, okay.
Not until we have staff.
We'll be encouraging them to get staff.
Well, we could all email the board and say, start hiring staff. It's ridiculous. Don't get me going on this, please, because it's a lot of work that ends up on everybody else, and it's ridiculous. Okay.
So, I'm sorry though, but I'm still stuck on the grants. There's the whole federal, the federal grant as well from the U.S. Department of Transportation. And I understand that, we as a committee don't want to take on the Washtenaw County culvert grant opportunities there.
Well,
Or
we
maybe we're
do,
not able to.
but we're not able to because we don't have anybody to fill out the application. So remember, you pulled up the application and sent it out, and I was reading through it, and then I was like, well, we need somebody that knows how to do these. So I was asking at the Township Hall, anybody know how to do grants? And it was Jessica, and that's the only person. We don't have any other staff to do it.
But it's a know-how limitation, not a legal limitation. Is that accurate to say?
We probably, as an advising body, would need to ask the Board of Trustees for permission to submit a grant application if we filled one out, I would imagine. We don't have the latitude to submit on behalf of Scio Township.
No, it
as
would
an
still,
advisory board.
it would still have to go through the board, but there's, again, we need somebody that knows how to do grants. It's just not, yeah, we would like money for culverts.
This appears to be a multi-year grant for 2025. I think there's another opportunity here.
Sure, but the longer we spin our wheels, the more money that we're not going to get from these.
I agree.
And I'm sorry to say, I'm not terribly enthusiastic about culverts. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it, just not something I'm like eager to tackle. But the U.S. Department of Transportation grant that is also on the agenda, I am interested in our township pursuing that. And so, you know, and I haven't done grants before, I haven't filled out a grant before, but at the very least, I would like to put together all the information that I can so that we can hand that to the board, or we can review it as a committee and say, you know, maybe it'll be ready to go. I don't know, I'm pretty optimistic about my abilities, but to say, this is a grant we would like to pursue, this is free money.
You have a really good point, and I think we should do that, and then Jessica can go over the wording. I think that, you know, with her not being able to do the whole thing, but if she had somebody to start it, and then maybe we could put that into a resolution. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm seeking permission from the Road Advisory Committee to go as far down the grant for the U.S. Department of Transportation rabbit hole as I can without actually.
Be aware that the board, I think, is only going to meet 2 more times before the July 10 deadline.
So I better book.
And so if you want to get it in front of them, yes.
Okay,
You
is this
don't want to
something
go to all
that,
that trouble and then not be able to.
right, understood. If I can get it to a point where it's ready to go before the board, before our next meeting, is that something that we as a committee would be comfortable with me sending, or is that something that we feel like we want to review as a committee first?
I don't have a calendar in front of me, but board meets on the second Tuesday.
Yeah.
This is July 10.
July 13th and then the 27th, I believe. So if you can have it ready by the 27th.
If we can't wait for our next meeting.
Yeah. And then I could submit it under an agenda item.
Okay,
And I'll talk with Will and Jessica on how to, and also Joyce, and how to get that onto the agenda.
okay, so you want me to send it to the RAC chair email address with the RAC on copy?
Sure. Is that
the
okay?
right way to do
Or
it?
or to the whole committee? Whole committee. Yeah, because my chair email address is under the RAC. So.
Jeff, I've done these before, so I'm happy to help. A lot of times these are for primary roads versus local roads. So I guess, we'll figure out where you want to apply these monies. Because there's a lot of times you can't spend federal dollars on a local road. Sometimes you can, but a lot of times you can't.
This one is specifically about either forming sorry, I just closed it in front of me, but it's either about forming, oh no, it's right here. It's either about forming an action plan, planning, basically creating the action plan.
Okay, so it's not really, okay.
For a holistic, well-defined strategy to prevent roadway fatalities. So that would be, I would imagine that we as a township don't have this. And so this would be to pursue the grant to form an action plan. So there'd be money to actually create an action plan around road safety. But if you already have an action plan, then the grant could be used for implementing the the strategies that were identified by your action plan to address road safety problems. So you get one or the other. You either get to,
So it seems like we have to start with one, right?
right, I think you have to start with the, yes, you have to have the action plan first before you can do any of the implementations.
So,
And both can be funded by this grant.
and what is this grant? Which one?
What's the name of it? Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program. And you got five years to spend $5 billion.
$5 billion.
I don't think we get all of that.
Okay.
That's not
Wow,
the
we won't
US.
have to do a road village or anything.
It'll be the safest streets in the country.
So Jeff and Roy, to do that together, you can work together and then have that ready by July 10th. Is that okay?
No, it's a great idea. I was just gonna say, just to give yourself traction with the board, you might include a sentence that says, you know, we just kind of got smashed for not trying out for grants by the Sun Times as a township, and we're trying. This may not be perfect, but we're trying.
And if we had the staff, we could take advantage of more.
This may be an
Do we-
opportunity to highlight that problem.
Yep.
Well,
Yes.
the grant would fund the staff is to create the policy. So the township. No.
You're absolutely right. Wow, Bob. I think it is like a triple
Shine it
win,
bright
right?
Yeah.
Just, so, it's due by July 10th, but we need to have that to the board.
By the Wednesday prior to the second meeting in the month of June.
Yeah, so that would be July or June,
What's that? What's that?
that's the meeting, but what's the Wednesday before June?
21st.
21st.
Next week.
In order to make it on the agenda packet.
I'll do what I can.
Okay, so do we need a vote on this?
I don't think so, but you might run a flag up the supervisor. It says you're asking to put something on the agenda for that meeting.
Yeah, well, it's the manager and the supervisor together.
Whoever is setting the agenda, just so that you don't get to that point and then have them say, I'm sorry, the agenda is full, which happens.
I know, we just keep adding it on. That's why we leave it 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay, but I will make sure, yeah, and when I talk, again, I'll bring it up to Joyce on Friday when I have a meeting with her. And so, I'm sorry, this was G2. Well, thank you, Jeff, for bringing us back. I was feeling hopeless about the whole grants and I've been really wanting us to take advantage of it. Okay, so let's see, the next thing, Dino Drive, we've talked about that already, sad policy, but I think that we need to have our charge taken care of first, revised.
Do you wish me to speak to the DDA at the next DDA meeting, which I believe will be July? About this, it will be, if we don't have a July meeting for our RAC, it will be after meeting, if we do have one, to ask the DDA's opinion about dissolving or push that collaborative.
Or also for, well, Dino Drive, but again, if we're gonna do road funding and all the roads for the millage, I mean, we're kind of in this gray area again, that things are.
Oh, the answer can be yes or no. I just, if you wish me to
Sure.
bring it to the DDA, I need to have permission from the committee to do so.
Yep, Linda, yep, go ahead. So you're speaking with them?
It would be at the next DDA meeting, which I believe is the second week of July. We just had a meeting in May.
May 8th, so yeah.
And so
Okay,
this is June, so it would be July.
okay.
It would be the second one in July.
So you will be speaking with them about the revolving fund and
Collaboration with
Collaboration.
RAC and reviewing the bylaws of the DDA vis-a-vis collaboration with RAC, or whether that should be the thing.
sure, yep, and also make sure you have our charge and show them that we are supposed to be.
Yes.
Because if not, we need to have that removed from our, okay. Okay, let's see, okay, we're skipping the policies to next time. Okay, possible, and we talked about this, so the additional charges regarding the bus, I did put, so the bus funding renewal. Okay, the 2024 road funding plan, so that was, it's my H. I did include the resolution, it was a motion, it was not a resolution, from, why can't I find it? From the board, from May 9th board meeting regarding the funding. What, there was H, why can't I find that in here?
I didn't know.
Here's the minutes.
This is a millage for the bus, but I didn't see.
Okay, yeah, there's the bus millage. I wanted everyone to have the language for that. There's WATS and, okay, I don't know why. This is weird, did that not show up? Oh wait, it's at the end. It's not included, is
Page
it?
67.
We move so fast, I just figured out what agenda item we're on. Now, what are we looking for?
So we're on H1. And you
Scio
said,
Township Transportation Millage proposal was page 67.
yes, but that's for the bus. So that's,
what we're talking about.
well, we're talking about, okay, the
Sorry.
additional charges, so the bus funding renewal and then also the 2024 road funding plan and millage ballot subcommittee. So I thought,
That's page 68. Ballot proposal for dedicated road millage or levy, page 68.
right, but what I'm looking for is the language from the board that we passed the motion and what it says. And so, I'm sorry, I thought I had included it in here.
You think it's already printed on the website?
Patrick's going through the page 68 instead of pulling it off of the hyperlinks from the default agenda, so
I just meant like, is it in the meeting?
I don't see it in the hyperlinks.
Which one is it? Personnel, there's 3 attachments, yeah. So what you're seeing?
Yes,
3 attachments and it's
but
not.
what she's looking for is bus funding.
Was it from the May 9th meeting or the May 23rd meeting?
It was from May 9th.
Okay,
And,
so the minutes are published.
okay, then if you go down to, and there was, yeah,
Sorry. Where you look?
keep going. You would be under, keep going. No, that's a consent, keep going. No, keep going.
Works, further down.
No, keep going.
Who you are busy.
Wait. Nope, skip, that's the fire station, keep going. Wait, stop. Here it is, okay. So keep going, just a little bit, keep going a little bit. I think it's gonna be in. Can I had Jessica send it to me, the corrected? Okay.
Are you looking for the motion?
Yes. All right, the motion, Scio Township fund the project set forth on the 2023 agreement with Washtenaw County Road. Okay. The Board of Trustees place on a 2024 ballot the issue of a dedicated road millage or levy. So it will go for a vote. So that's why I included in here, and then also the bus, and that wasn't part of that discussion, but later on, they we talked about it, but the bus funding renewal, so you have the language in there. So that can kind of give us an idea. And if we have a subcommittee, that's something that they can start from. Now, the road funding plan and millage ballot. So under Public Acts 51, it does state that we can have a vote with a levy. And we can levy up to 6 mills. We don't have to do that, and I advise that we don't because people will freak out. I'm already freaking out about the fire. But there's that part, but also if we do a regular millage, but no matter what, we still have to have a plan. So I wanted to include both of those, and I did bring, and I don't know if you've seen this, but this is the MTA. There's a book on special assessments and also one for millages that helps with creating a ballot language and whatnot. So we have that as a reference. But that's what they have charged us with. So we could either do it as a committee or group here or have subcommittees.
Well, I guess getting back to Bob's original point, we have to decide what we want to do first before we can come up with wording for a village because.
Yep, we have to have a plan.
Yeah. And the board has to buy into the plan.
Well, everybody's in agreement in all the committees that we want the roads to be maintained and improved. So we have a start.
It seemed like last meeting, we talked about doing all the roads, not just the gravel collectors, trying to incorporate all the public roads.
Oh,
right.
That's what I was getting, including, we need those decisions confirmed.
Right, but I think, I don't know, did we vote on that last time or we didn't vote on them?
Yeah, I thought we did.
yep, we did. It was all the roads. And in here, now I can't find it. I contacted Andrea after our last meeting and asked her, and Fran, asked her for a list of private roads because we're gonna need to know our roads. And by the way, when we do private roads, if we have SADs, they have a different law that they are under Public Act 139. And we have to incorporate that into a private road SAD policy. So that's a side note. But I thought I had included the private roads in this. I know I uploaded it. I did, okay.
Private roads are in there.
There's a list in back,
Great.
page 106.
So at least we can eliminate the private roads.
Right, yeah, and you include the list of all the public roads too, under K1.
Well, thank you. That was from you.
Right.
Yeah, thank you for
K1
that.
includes all that, you know, so I think that's what we did. Last time we talked about all the public local roads. Would make sense. Yeah. And I think you really need to develop a multi-year plan. And here again, because obviously you're not gonna fix all the roads in 1 year, 2 years, not even 5 years. Multi-year plan, and here again, even you might not even fund it, you know, longer than you have years funding it. But at least people know eventually if you can renew this, you're gonna get to your road.
Yeah, and it's,
There's no, I mean, unless we do 6 mills, which obviously we're not gonna go 6 mills. But you know, if you do some reasonable amount, then you can project that out, you know, then you can run those numbers. I'm happy to be involved. Obviously, I've done this before. I've been one for the whole county. I've been involved in one we did.
I think that's exactly what the board is going to need as far as the direction for the mills. The language is a second.
the mill, right.
I don't
And
think
then-
this fundamentally changes what we were working on. We just have
No.
picked the direction we're gonna go and get the funding, but we still
Yes.
have to put together the plan of it's approximately this much each year, assuming on a rotating basis, you do these roads and this. Right, I don't think this changes anything other than
Yeah, I think there's
we've
like
made a decision.
30 miles of gravel roads, 30 miles of paved subdivision road. It's, you know, 28 point something, but just, let's say 30 and 30, and that's where you develop a plan based on those. You know, which interval you're gonna do resurfacing on them, what interval you're gonna do adding limestone to the gravel roads, and then develop a spreadsheet that, you know, you already have the base for all the local gravels, then you just do the same thing for the local paves and develop that same type of spreadsheet. I'm happy to get, you know, start
Well,
with others.
And it's not just connector roads either.
No, that's what I'm saying. We'd have the one for the connector roads that we just incorporate
Add
a
it.
similar type of spreadsheet for all the paved roads. And you develop a plan, and the road commission's done the pacer evaluation, which sort of tell you, is it good, fair?
they're more generalized because they're only broken into like 4 categories, good, fair, poor, actually three categories. And sometimes, it's a little fuzzy because you grouped it's, a poor road, you go out, there's like, really not that bad. But according to the criteria, it's, at the top of a poor and at the bottom of a fair type thing. But that's where you say, okay, develop what kind of strategy are you gonna do for this road? It's like, okay, you can just read it. Simple resurfacing, this is a mill and fill, this is gonna be pulverizing. That's why you develop those plans, plug those in, figure out, okay, we need, $100 a year or $1,000 a year. Obviously, I'm just, throwing numbers out there.
And if we have something, if we have a plan like that, because we don't want to, just give them, oh, we're gonna do, 3 mills and here's a slush fund and we'll just, kind of be reactive. We don't want to do that at all. And also, the subcommittee looking at culverts and sidewalk gaps, that are that type of thing. But and then, if it's a levy, it's set up a little bit differently. And then there's the pros and cons. A millage is going to have, if we should have a shorter millage than the Headley the Headley amendment, with the rollback, then we can use as much money. Because if we do a 10 or 15-year millage, by the year 15, we're going to not have as much money. The levy. There's some pros and cons to both, and I think that you had that in your presentation. You could just eliminate the sad part. And then also including in that is, well, we still need to have a sad policy, give everything to the board and have it prepared and solid. But I think that, so should this, this is a pretty big subject, so should we have this? We have a lot to do. And yeah. Also, I was thinking, do we need to have more meetings? Maybe every other month have a second meeting? Or just break it down to subcommittees and then you can set your own schedule and bring it back to?
If we were to do additional meetings, I think we should put a limit and say through January with specific intent that the emphasis would be on millage because that's, or whatever the board charges us as the most important thing to deal with. Put a limit on it and then, people can attend, we'll try and get a board.
So it's not forever.
Yeah, I guess I'd really go with the subcommittees rather than having to try to coordinate all the people, twice a month versus, I know it's something you I like myself are on other committees too. It's like, okay, this is meeting twice and then this is meeting one and this is meeting. So like next week, like, okay.
I second that,
Subcommittee.
very specific charge.
So should we have 2 subcommittees, one for bus and one for the millage ballot or the millage?
Officially
levy?
haven't been asked to do the bus, right? Or have we?
No, we have been.
Oh.
verbally.
Is that official?
Wait.
Our liaison to the Board of Trustees is telling us that she was
Oh, she
told.
didn't, okay.
Yeah, I'm not joking. I'm like,
You're not making this
like,
up.
oh my gosh, no, I'm not making it up because I really, don't want more to do, but this is kind of makes
I would
sense.
think, and then the subcommittees that you can meet, they're similar, but obviously they're separate. Makes sense to me too. They obviously, they talk when they come back, but it seems like, yeah. It would be helpful information when the bus committee or the bus was initiated 9 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever that was.
I was involved in it. I'm working 70 hours a week. I'm only available after 6 p.m.
No, I'm not asking you, but if we get that information.
But
whoever's on
I
that
don't mind
site-
coming in as a historical reference, but I cannot meet during the day.
Okay, so regarding the subcommittees, I would like to see a majority of our committee, members on these. If we have other people on the outside, that's fine, but I don't want, like, here's a subcommittee for, roads, and if they're all from different, volunteers, because this is what we're charged with. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure.
Well, if you want a majority, then if we're having a 5-person subcommittee, we would need to have 3.
Well, and how many do we need on a subcommittee? On each subcommittee? Just in total?
How many people want?
More than two.
How many people want to be on the
Three?
subcommittee? Was the first question, right? And do we have at least 3 on each
I
one
think
of
you
them?
want an odd number, because if you take a vote, you gotta have a tiebreaker, right?
The subcommittee's really not voting on anything, are they?
Right.
Well, but when they
Disagree,
discuss, they,
yeah.
they fit.
So should like 2 and then an outsider?
Tricky part is what's the process for bringing outsiders in?
Well, what did you do for what did we do for the, no, not fire,
Township set that up.
the presentation or the road, the funding?
Those members from the
Yeah,
staff.
that was a collaboration.
Yes, two committee people from both committees, we asked volunteers, so that's how that was. I mean, I'm not opposed to doing it, it's just sort of like, it's another, how do you, what's gonna be that, I mean, we can't even find people for this roads committee, the RAC, right now? Are we gonna find people for a bus? I guess we can ask, but just delays that, that has to go to the board, find people, come back. I mean, I guess it just seems like, it'll be September before we have a committee to start working on things that are sort of important for 2024.
Well, then should we have have only road advisory committee members on these subcommittees? I don't know, how do we go about this?
I mean,
Well, have three of us. But 3 of us are on the subcommittee.
And, okay, so 3 on each subcommittee?
3 to 5, I mean, it's, how many people want to do it, I guess is the question, can we get at least
You
3?
can't have 5 of us because then it.
Oh, that's
Work
true.
quorum, so-
Right, that has to be 3, yeah.
Okay, so 3 members each.
3 of us tighten up. What we want to propose to the board to bring it back in here as far as covering all the roads, what it's going to take, pros and cons of a levy versus a village.
Could we request AATA to come and speak with us? 'Cause it's gonna take a couple months for that to happen. I don't know, I don't have a contact with them anymore. Do you think you might be able to drag up the contact of the person who came to TAP? I would ask them if we can get them to come to a meeting.
Who it was.
I've got
He may have left, but there's someone there.
I've got it in my notes.
Okay, yeah, I remember,
Yeah, I mean, with the bus, I think we have a little bit more time,
yeah,
because
It's
when we need
2024.
the subcommittee to develop the whole plan, because obviously.
But the problem is if they want it
AATA
on that, if they want it on the ballot.
But what I'm getting at though, you can use AAT as a reference, I mean, they're, and the wave, they have the numbers, they know, it's not like.
well, and it, the other thing is that we have these new developments going in down, Woodview is one of them, and then there's Scio farms that the township has been talking about expanding to Scio farms, I believe the DDA had brought that up.
Well, in the village, the city of Dexter was trying at that point in time, 10 years ago, to get the bus down there. So we may now have critical mass with the new subdivision and the increase in size of Scio farms. Pull them to both Dexter and stops along the way.
And there's Heritage Woods, that'll take a couple years to be developed, but that's gonna be a lot
That'll be
more.
right at the turn of Baker Road. So,
And
Dexter.
supposedly it's seniors, so they may be wanting to take advantage of that.
Seniors is one part of that, yes.
So do you want the
It's all supposed to be
contact for the
seniors.
way Triple ATA?
I believe so.
Okay.
For a presentation. Okay, the next meeting, do you want to create the subcommittees? Who wants to be on those?
If we're at July 5.
Oh, wait a minute, July. That would be August. I mean, we really, unless we have we can reschedule our meeting in July for later. Because then we have August, September, this is gonna be a lot of work in a short period of time.
12th look like. We can't be the 5th. What's the
Second
12th?
Wednesday.
Could you check, somebody, is there are there
Township.
committees on,
Oh, you want Scio Township?
We don't have to have this room for the size we are, although I guess if we want the Zoom, we have to be in here, don't we?
Well, and we have to be open to the public if we have.
Well, we could be open to the
Well, I
public.
mean, the other hand is, do we just ask tonight, who would like to be on the roads
Is there July 12th
Funding.
meeting
committee?
at the township? It does.
So we've started.
All right, did you want to be Bob,
What about the other one?
on the bus?
Okay, or do you want to do that now? Figure out the members?
Wait, I mean, we're here.
Okay, all right,
So
so,
my guess is if there's not a meeting on the second Wednesday in November, there's probably not going to be a meeting on the second Wednesday in July.
Parks and Pathways is meeting on
Yeah,
the
we meet-
12th at 4.
Yeah, 4 to 5:30.
Second Wednesday?
I
Could
don't
you-
know where
could
you
you
see the
meet-
calendar on here.
It's shown on the calendar
Yeah,
for the
4 to
you
township.
go to
5:30.
the top, just click on
Well, then
there.
We're done in an hour and a half or
And
an
then if you
hour.
scroll down.
Second Wednesday.
Yeah.
But our meeting's at 6:30, so there's no
Just an
problem.
idea.
So
Yeah.
we're looking
There's
at
nothing
July
other than the Parks and
14th.
Pathways, is there?
Yeah, no.
Is that what it is?
So we could ask Christie if we could have the room, if we can get a quorum for the 12th.
Yeah, there's,
But you're
there's
still
two
gonna be
meetings.
gone.
How long you got?
For most of July.
Yeah, you don't go for a week.
You have it?
Yeah, 12th of July, there's Parks and Paths Preserves PPP at 4 PM.
That's a Monday, by the way,
Oh, I'm sorry.
July 12th? No.
isn't it? Am I looking at my calendar wrong? Oh, I'm looking at June, I'm so sorry.
Okay, so July,
It's a Wednesday.
so what about the 19th?
No, the 12th would be fine
Go
because,
with the
yeah,
12th.
we're done by 5:30.
Let's just get a burger and come back.
I mean, I
Oh, you're done by July
we're
12th?
4 to 5:30.
Oh, you're early.
And then at 6:30, we're asking to have them come back for a roads meeting.
Okay, I'll talk to Christie about, so we will reschedule instead of having the July 5th and then do July 12th.
Do we, would the other people who will be traveling think that they'll be here on July 12th? Ian is still gone.
Probably.
Okay, so that looks like a more promising,
Yeah, more promising.
that's just a tough week.
Is this something that we should vote on though?
What, do we have 3 people for the bus?
Oh, wait, you mean the July 12th meeting or?
Yes, the July 12th meeting.
Changing the meeting date.
Sure.
I'll say yes, or I.
Propose motion to
You're
move the
opposed.
July 5th meeting to July 12th.
Second.
Motion by Townsend,
Yes, we-
second by Shields.
Yeah.
Unanimous vote.
Done.
Yeah, unanimous. Okay, I'm just having.
Don't you love democracy?
No, it's great. It's just, you know, too many things going on here. Okay, so bus millage subcommittee. Let's do that one first. 3 members, Bob.
I'm not clear on what the 2 committees are doing though, so I'm sorry to hammer that one again. I feel like y'all are able to read between the lines quicker than I
So
am
Jillian's gonna go back and ask clarification.
on the bus millage
Yeah.
thing. Okay, so what exactly we're trying to do with
So the
that?
bus millage is up for renewal in
I understand
2024, and they want that to be along with the road funding millage, you know, kind of because it's all transportation on the ballot together, not separate ballot questions, but on the same election.
As one item, so that.
No, it would be 2 separate items on the same election day.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, so we need millage for the bus, but also we need to do some research on that. And if we need to have more expanded, you know, all of those different details, I mean, we could just do the same thing, but then the DDA and others had talked about expanding to Scio Farms, but we're gonna bring in AATA for a presentation, so we know a little bit more. So there's that subcommittee to create that, do the research and then create the ballot language and whatnot. Of course, it's all gonna need board approval, but we need to have a solid plan to take to the board. And then that's one subcommittee. The other subcommittee would be the road funding. Road culverts, sidewalks, or whatever it is, and how we're going to do that, either a millage or a levy, but it still would be a vote by the people.
So both are involved with how are we going to fund them?
Yes, and to have a plan to present to the board, because that's what they're
It's
asking.
what we're going to fund, right? And how we're gonna fund and how much, yes.
Yeah, but, right. They just didn't want us to focus on like, oh, let's just do 3 mills and then, create a plan backwards. They want us to create a plan and then figure, just like in the fire committee.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
the road subcommittee is also looking at whether or not to fund sidewalks on these.
No, that's part of our charge, so that would be part of the whole, yeah.
I just
I
meant,
believe.
we have our 2 subcommittees. One of them's talking about millage or a levy for roads and culverts and sidewalks, is that correct? And since we're talking about, they're going to be deciding, or they're going to be suggesting to us, right, of whether to include work related to roads, culverts, or sidewalks.
That's what we would present to them
I'm
because
talking
that's
about the
on the charge.
subcommittee.
Oh, the subcommittee, I'm sorry, I thought I was thinking from the board.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, I guess that was our charge. I mean, obviously, we looked at, but it seems like, yes, what you're saying, yeah, we think we need to look at everything as a subcommittee, if I'm on that subcommittee. Then we bring it back to the committee and say, yes, no, yes, sort of, pick and choose, like, okay, no, we don't want to do this, or we do want to do this, or do more of this. But I think initially we should look at everything and then we can scale back from there.
I'm clear on what the subcommittee are talking about.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, so going back to the subcommittees and members, anybody have like buses more than road funding? I mean, what do you want to do?
I said I do bus.
Yeah, I have you down for a bus.
I need 2 more people.
I can do bus. I can send
You
a
don't like
letter
buses?
I can send a letter to Christie and ask her for the file, see if she can find it.
More a question of time. I mean, I can't take it anymore.
I understand. Anybody else for buses?
I've already started the funding, I'd rather stay there.
Okay, well, let's, okay, so Bob G for, and then Bob W for road funding. Okay, who wants to do road funding? Let's narrow down that way. You too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'm on buses with you too. All right, well, we narrowed that down. I wanted to make sure everybody is where they want to be. Let's see, and Roy. Okay, and then no matter what we do, it's coming back to the committees first, and then we create a recommendation as a committee and give it to the board. And I will, so I'm waiting. And we have to have a deadline. So I wanted ask Jessica for the deadline for the election in, just say it's June, and she gave me a rough estimate, because if it's in August, that gives us a little bit more time. But, so we're kind of under a crunch and it's gonna go by fast. Okay, let's see, under the minutes, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's been 1 minute, so go ahead.
Go into the minutes,
I'll move minutes.
everybody good with them?
No, I don't think we can use the minutes. The minutes have already been published publicly.
No, those are the draft minutes.
The May 9th. There's a 7 minutes in the May 9th Board of Trustees deck.
I'm sorry.
Page 260. Something.
Are you talking about the board?
Board of Trustees May 9th deck had minutes for the May meeting.
For our meeting?
Yes.
Those are draft minutes though.
Not noted as draft.
Well,
It
Well, that would just
includes
be
a call to
clear.
order, it includes a roll call. Everything that we include in the minutes was included in that package. I don't think we can have 2 sets of minutes out there.
that was the report, that was under reports.
But it is structured exactly like minutes.
Well, I would say that's still not minutes.
No, they're not minutes, they're
I-
not your minutes, because what they are, that's just my report. I just took the agenda and wrote, or whatever it was.
Looks like a talks like a duck. Anyone looking at this is going to say minutes.
No, it says report for board.
Doesn't matter. It looks like.
It doesn't matter.
minutes.
It says report for the board. Those are not minutes. I just took the agenda as it was to keep track of what we had done, but those are not minutes.
If it's structured like we do the minutes, it's hard to argue that someone reading this would not think they're minutes.
Take a vote on
It's structured after the agenda, not the minutes.
It's page 266 of the May 9th Board of Trustees deck.
It's under reports.
I understand, but if you look at how we write minutes, it is structured exactly the same way.
Board of Trustees report for June 7th. Nowhere does it say it's the minutes for
It's in the May 9th Board of Trustees. There's a Scio Township Road Advisory.
She's looking at it, or he's looking at it right
I'm
now.
looking at it. It's like,
Wait, no, that's Board of Trustees report for RAC. So go back to what you want the report to,
Page
and every
266.
other reports I've done, I have used that agenda outline.
It reads like minutes. I think it's a problem.
Well, I did not take minutes. I took a report.
I'm completely lost.
It's page 266.
I'm not looking at the full deck, hang on.
Oh, say, it's not here. It's in, he's talking about the Board of
May
Trustees
9th Board of Trustees
minutes.
package. This wasn't minutes. This was the package from the
Yep.
9th meeting.
The agenda package.
Yes.
What would be your suggestion, Bob?
We have to take this. This has been published. This
That's
is,
not been published as minutes.
Those are reports.
that looks like minutes, does it
But it
not?
does not say minutes.
I think that's a technicality.
I think it's a technicality that we are here to follow procedure, and procedurally, that is not minutes.
Did the BOT do anything with that? Did they?
It's under reports, under the BOT. It's my report to the BOT regarding what we had talked about in our meeting.
So they didn't really accept the minutes. I see what you're saying. So it's a report, but it looks like minutes, but the BOT didn't really act on it, didn't approve them. They just acknowledged.
No, it was just part of the board packet as a report. Just like when John Reiser does a report from the planning commission.
I see. So it was published, but not
I'm sorry?
voted on by the board of trustees.
Well, they want to vote on it, but my problem is it looks like minutes. Everything is structured like minutes.
It's not titled minutes.
Doesn't matter.
So, right, because it's easier for me to use the agenda outline to do a report.
I just think it raises issues.
Just to you.
I'll disagree.
Okay,
Could we agree that in the future, if you're gonna use the minutes from a meeting, as a
Don't use the
report?
minutes from the meeting. It's just my report. I just use the agenda outline. And not all of it either, because I don't put in call to order and the time and the roll,
What's the point of contention? I'm lost here. What's the big deal?
there's two versions. There can't be two versions of potential minutes out there. I guess I'll go with Linda. Can we structure reports to the Board of Trustees differently so that it can't be confused as minutes?
You could still cut and paste it, but just make a note that says these are part of the draft minutes.
No, they're not part of the draft minutes. It's just a report of what we did, based on what, but you know what? I would, it's a lot of work for me to do a board report to RAC and a RAC report to the board. So if you want to get the minutes in within the 5 business days, I can include that.
But even if I'd gotten it in 5 business days, it wouldn't have made the package.
Well, I need a report. So if I could have your draft minutes from tonight, I will include that in the board packet for this upcoming meeting. And that would take a whole lot of, work off me.
Some months it works and some months it doesn't, depending on where the first Tuesday of the month is.
And it doesn't really matter as long as we get a report to the board. But if you want to use the minutes for a report, that's fine with me. It's one less thing off my to-do list.
Don't want to use the minutes for the board.
Okay, then I'm going to create the report to the board the way that I see fit because it's just my report.
What's the title?
Report.
Report. What's your title? Minutes. Right. So what's the bone of contention? I still don't see it.
If the public sees this, they're going to see, not report, they're going to see minutes. It's structured the same. All I'm asking is to make the structure different.
Can we see that, please?
The minutes are a bit of they're more of a legal recording
Oh, I
of
did
what
have the call
happened.
to order. No,
So
wait a
that
minute, what is that?
10 years down the road, if we need to figure out what happened in
It's
this meeting.
exactly the same. That's the problem.
But nobody's gonna refer to the report in the.
No, but my concern is there's two versions.
It's not a version. That says a report. It doesn't say meeting minutes.
It says.
It doesn't say
exact
meeting minutes.
same-
It says a report.
With.
Why are we
exact-
wasting time on this?
Because
It says,
it's the exact
it
same
says,
content.
it doesn't matter. It says report. The title of the document is report. It's not meeting minutes.
So no one is going to get confused.
So let's take a vote then, whether we approve the minutes, and you can dissent. Thank you. We take a vote and then we can move on.
There is a motion and a second on the floor, right?
I'll second.
Second.
That was a waste of time.
Well, you know what? I appreciate Bob bringing up issues or potential issues because you know what, we need to make sure. And I do appreciate it.
We move on, it's getting late.
Okay.
We need to vote.
Is there anything? Yeah, go ahead. Patrick, okay, somebody said that there was a motion and a second. Okay.
We can voice vote it. I mean, it's not a.
I moved it, I thought Ian seconded it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
can second.
Just for clarification.
You know, all approve the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone that does not approve, say nay. Are we okay.
Reports are reports. I think we're good.
I've got a question on reports.
Okay, go ahead.
Is there a reason the board's discussion on J1 from May 9th wasn't just included in its entirety from the meeting?
I'm sorry.
The meeting on May 9th of the board where the discussion on possible township-wide special assessment district balance. Is there a reason the entirety just wasn't cut and paste and put in our deck?
The entirety of the whole conversation?
It's 3+ pages.
Why? So you're saying it wasn't complete?
I'm just asking why the minutes that were approved from the May 9th meeting on the discussion from the special assessment district weren't included in their entirety in our deck.
Are they?
No,
There's a link to the meeting minutes in the actual
but there
report.
was also a partial description. I'm just saying, why didn't we just cut and paste the 3.5 pages?
The link to the minutes is in the report as a hyperlink.
Right, but there was also an abbreviated submission of them. I'm just wondering why there was an abbreviated and not the full.
The abbreviated minutes or my report? Okay, I'm confused here.
Your
Can
report,
you
I'm
show-
just wondering why we didn't just cut and paste the 3.5 pages for minutes to include in our.
Well, because if you wanted the whole conversation, what I did was, wait,
All right, go
you're
ahead.
gonna make me sick.
I'm sorry.
Motion sickness. Okay, go up to the May 9th.
Sure.
Okay, so what I did was the motion, which, you know, it was a very long conversation. So I just took the motion, which would be that affects us as a committee. That's what I put in there. And I put in a link to the minutes and everything else if you wanted to go deeper. But the motion, this is the motion that the board had approved. I mean, I can cut and paste the whole thing, but I feel that the motion, because the board approved it, was more important than, I mean,
I'm just thinking, we've talked for meeting after meeting on funding. It would have been, in my view, just to cut and paste the 3.5 pages and stick them in instead of having the hyperlink.
Well, you know, this is also when it gets down to people like, you know, this is the board has had issues with, you know, board members telling the clerk how to do minutes and all of that and whatnot. And, you know, what do we include? If you want the whole thing, I mean, I could take the transcript from the video, which I believe is about 5 hours long, and I can include that. And then we can have a long page for everybody to read through. But I just took what was most important was the motion. And I also put a video recording link, an agenda packet, and the approved minutes. We don't have approved minutes for the next time because we have that on the July 13th.
All I'm asking is, we've talked about getting the funding. We've talked about perceptions on the board and how do we sell this. 3.5 pages when we've got dozens of pages on curves and corners isn't too much to ask.
Well, you know what? I did my best at that board meeting to fight for RAC to have our charge. They were ready to commandeer it and just do the funding on their own. And I felt that they were overstepping the committee that they had approved for us to do. And you know what? You all can come to the board meetings. You can log in and Zoom, but that was the most contentious meeting. And for them to want to keep the surplus funds, which would be illegal to do. And then that was actually the first meeting that all of us agreed on a win-win-win for everybody. And plus we have our road advisory committee charge that, you know, what's the point of us even meeting if they're going to just take over and do whatever they want?
But I think it's actually a good thing on the minutes because it captures the fact that there was a compromise. I'm not arguing with the decision, but I think it's valuable for the committee to understand what the discussion was.
I included the minutes and the video recording.
I think that's fine. Where are we on the agenda?
Public works, still reports.
Okay. Anything else?
I guess I should probably make a comment that the planning commission report that would normally be included was not included in this one. I would like to just include it in the next meeting packet, if that's acceptable.
Yes, and also I know that you have the 2 meetings and sometimes just like the board and it gets a little overwhelming. So if you could give us a verbal report when there's not, when you can't get it in, and then make sure it's in the next packet.
I can give you a verbal report.
Yeah, sorry about.
Yeah, let me just pull it up real quick.
And sometimes, you know, there's a meeting, then the next day is, you know, you have to have a deadline to get a report in and there's just no way.
Yeah.
Or you can bring it next time.
No, this one had to do with a personal deadline issue and how this report was delivered. So let's see here. Let's see, so the planning commission was set to hold a public hearing on an application for conditional use by the Best Friends Pet Care, 5645 Jackson Road for a dog kennel. However, the applicant did not show up and the planning commission voted to postpone the public hearing to a later date. That was by voice vote. The planning commission received a request to rezone a parcel at 3991 Dexter Ann Arbor Road from recreation, to, gosh, I cannot remember what this zoning official name is, recreational conservation. It's the RC zoning. Sorry, I don't know that one off the top of my head. To planned unit development from Norfolk Development. Many residents spoke out against granting this rezoning due to the potential of disturbing the underlying dioxane plume. It was ultimately found that many of the documents the planning commission had requested the last time the parcel was requesting rezoning had been submitted to the township, but had not been included in the agenda packet for the planning commission to review. This was the township's mistake and not the applicant's mistake. The planning commission voted to postpone action until June 12th, and the submitted documents can be reviewed. That was a 4-2 vote.
The planning commission received a request to amend the Scio View condominiums plan unit development after reviewing the proposed changes to the, excuse me, let's try this again. After reviewing the proposed changes, the planning commission voted the proposed changes constituted a minor adjustment to the plan unit development 5-1. Proposed changes include changes to the outside for screened-in porches in place of decks, slightly smaller footprints, and larger distances between homes. Planning Commission recommended to the Board of Trustees to accept the proposed changes as a minor adjustment to the plan unit development 6-0. And I will send that to the Road Advisory Committee, or do I just send it to you?
You sent it already to me.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that'll
it's-
be in the next package.
Sorry, it was, yeah, and it's good to have these reports, even if they don't have anything to do with us, but we need to know what else is going on in the township. Okay, so now we're to any more about reports? We're good, okay. Public comments? Anybody in person would like to speak?
You know, I watch all these meetings, sometimes not live on Zoom, and then on Scio Community News. So I think they're giving an awful lot to try to chew off here. Like the bus committee, I mean, that almost should be a committee totally on its own. I mean, I'm just saying, your committee has a lot to do. And all these subcommittees, you're the ones doing it, but I think it's gonna be very hard when they don't have a professional person who can look at all what you said, all the data and all that. Then I'm sure this is what Jonathan was gonna bring up. When is the Park Road gravel lift? Are we gonna wait another 10 years?
No,
Because
it's
we're gonna-
it's in the agreement, the Washtenaw County Road Agreement, which I have the updated, it came in.
I'm just saying, anybody who watches it that lives along there probably might, when is it approximately?
This summer.
This summer, because that'll really help people, and people really appreciate that you've gotten that on schedule more than anything else, you know, that's a tangible thing to do. And as far as these roads and all these for the new developments, like Roy, you could probably address this better or think about it. You know, people are driving 60 miles an hour down Jackson Road. And it's already scary when everybody's pulling out of the businesses that are on there. And the planning commission is talking about moving buildings up closer to the road even. And I'm concerned, especially with this, if they do with the Knights of Columbus, you know, with this Norfolk people. Washtenaw Road Commission said it would be perfectly fine that they didn't need to have like a little, you know, like part extension. So that when they turn out of that development, and maybe Jeff remembers how many are gonna be in that Norfolk, you know, the Knights of Columbus thing. How many that were proposed, but it seemed like an awful lot of people are gonna be turning out into, you know, I keep going, our speed limits are a problem. And I'd like to see the committee talk about speed limits a little bit. I know they say, oh, it's the Washtenaw Sheriff. And then I wanted to suggest one other thing for you, Jeff, since with the grants, is Debbie Dingle has an assistant, and I have his name at home. He's a super great guy. I went up to her presentation up there in Chelsea when she gave it. He came to one of the board meetings, and they're very willing to work with us on any kind of whatever we need, basically. And that he may be able to connect us with some other people. And her office, I find them very pragmatic people. And that's about it.
Thank you.
Hi, Kathleen Brandt, Scio resident, last name is spelled B-R-A-N-T, no D. I was on Park Road today. I might suggest that this committee make a comment to Will Hathaway to ask the developer to Brine Park Road. It's in their agreement. They're supposed to do that. All we have to do is ask for it. Lots of dust there. I also want to echo what Paula just said. I cannot believe that you are expanding your charge willingly. This just seems to me that you take on more work and the township has less professional staff. It seems like some of this should be handled by professional staff. So as long as you'd agree to do it, I think they keep shoveling your way. I want to make a correction for something that was said earlier. If you read your agenda packet, there are letters from Jessica Flintoff, the clerk, and Will Hathaway regarding the revolving fund. Now, I'm going to say this because I believe you've misled Bob Groden here, that he now thinks this should be DDA money for the revolving fund. It should not, okay? So if you read these letters and read your packet and came prepared, Clerk Flintoff said she's not going to back the revolving fund being used for DDA. It says, as you know, this fund is governed by state law and is to contain the funds advanced from the general fund. She says this more than once. She says this on April the 27th, directing these comments to Mr. Hathaway. And when he did not reply, she said it again on May the 8th, because he continued saying this during the May 8th DDA meeting. She talks about, I've done my research in the origin of the monies. Only general fund money should go into it for purposes described in state law chart of accounts. So it doesn't matter where the money came from. It wasn't proper in that regard. She's trying to get us back to following statute, which, you know, I think following statute is a wonderful thing to do. I'm really disconcerted by people that think they don't have to follow statute and they just decide that it makes sense. It should go to the DDA. Well, there's statutes that regard this. And Mr. Hathaway replies, my understanding is that the revolving fund could be phased out if the Board of Trustees chooses to do so. The way to do that would be a resolution dissolving the fund and transferring the balance to the general fund. Please read your packet and you wouldn't have these arguments about it's DDA money. It's not DDA money, okay? Bob, you're a great guy. I don't want you to be misled by things that are not correct, that are stated in this room. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. My name is Aaron Cohen. I was here once before about the potholes. This time it's a little bit different. So I appreciate you all giving me the time. I'm here today as a concerned resident of our Trailwoods community and bring forth several important points regarding the proposed repaving plan for Park and Stabler. I sent an email. I'm wondering if, did you all receive that today?
Yes, yeah, I responded to you.
Yes, you did. I appreciate that. Everyone else saw it? It did. Well, it came in when I saw stakes all over our backyard. Yeah, no, it came in when I saw the stakes on my backyard to see where they were going to clear to. So basically, I think there are a few things that I wanted to, kind of get out today. And I outlined some of those in my email. But number one is safety risks. The planned repaving is in such close proximity to our backyards, and it raises significant safety concerns. We have a high-speed curve. I don't remember what the name is called. You are all the road commission, but it's some sort of a reverse curve. I don't know the proper terminology. I'm sure some of you do, but the surveyor, himself said, I would be concerned having your backyard right here with a curve at 55 miles an hour downhill where we have 14 kids that live just in our cul-de-sac alone. cars can go into our backyard, so that's not really exciting. It's crucial that we prioritize the safety and well-being of our residents, and particularly the youngest ones in our community. So I request this, but obviously time is short because they're supposed to start tearing down the trees and the yards here in a couple of days. But I'm wondering, did anyone actually do a thorough assessment of the potential risks that would be associated with the planned changes and implementation of appropriate safety measures to mitigate any hazards? Number two is the environmental impact. So the proposed repaving plan will result in the destruction of a lot of open space and landscaping, which we, the developer, the HOA, have spent tens of thousands of dollars on just as recently as a couple of months ago, replanting trees that they destroyed the first time around. And it will diminish both the aesthetic appeal of our community and disrupts the local ecosystem. So I urge you all as a commission to consider, what could have been alternative solutions to minimize the environmental impact while still addressing, obviously, the necessary road maintenance. I'm all about paving. I'm glad they're paving it, but I'm not glad about a few other things that I'll get to in a moment here. One of the big things is the developer and accountability throughout our entire subdivision. It touches on this paving project, but it goes further into all of the roads that have gone through our entire subdivision. There's a very much a lack of accountability, and we, I think, want to understand how things are going to be replaced, right? You're tearing out tons of trees, tons of open space. And I've seen what's happened with the quality of the replacement of our landscaping and our street trees. And I have Doug Luan coming out next week after 2.5 years of complaining about the quality and the lack of oversight of our township into the developer, into the builders. And it's a train of pointing fingers one after another, and it needs to stop. There's a major lack of transparency. Homeowners were not adequately or at all informed about the full scope of these proposed changes. So these weren't in the original documents. In fact, I think people in here were the ones who actually negotiated the deal, right? Yeah, you don't need to comment, I know. There's no transparency.
30 seconds.
And there's no accountability. So there's no, I think someone brought up dust remediation. So when they start this project, will there be water out there the entire time so that we don't have to breathe the dust the entire time? That's part of the accountability. So with that, the last couple of seconds, it's another example of people not being held accountable in our community where we have over 300 members. And you should take a look at the map that was used for the moving of the road that now is going to go through our backyards. So take a look at that. If you want to see it, I have it on my phone, and I'm sure there's other ways to get to it as well. And if that was what was used, it's really a bad way to.
Could you email that map to us?
Yeah, it's in the plans that he signed, but yeah, I'd be happy to.
Oh, there's the map. Okay.
Yeah, it's a 20-page document. There was the agreement that was put in place.
Oh, it's in the agreement?
It's in the development.
Yeah, and it's
referenced.
so it doesn't show, it actually has incorrect detention ponds. So it's an old map, I think. So there's one detention pond that we have now that show two, and it shows a line that goes like this, where the road actually is now going to go like this and curve back in. So it wipes out all the open space. So I don't know if that was the intention, but that's what's there. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
How are you? Vitaly Ivanov, IVA-NOV, also a resident of Trailwoods. And I think we as a community, I think Aaron put it very well, honestly, are just a little bit reacting to the stakes going into the ground. I think it is part of the reason. So again, we'll start out with very excited and so excited to see Park being paved. So thank you for pushing that along. But I think we do need to be very considerate about how it's being done. Aaron will take we'll call it the cost, and the rest of us residents that live far away from where, you know, this road's gonna go literally almost into their backyards. We'll reap the benefits and they'll take the cost. And as a community, I feel like that's just not fair. And one other point that I'd like to make is one of the reasons that drew us to Trailwoods was we were promised a bike path, a footpath that would circle around the whole neighborhood. Not only is a lot of that again, it's a little bit reactive, so haven't seen all the plans. But from what the lake stakes look like is a lot of that open space related to that. And again, that bike path will be kind of destroyed along the way. So more just want to add support from Trailwoods. I think if we had more realization, more time as a community, probably would have rallied, and I think there'd be a lot more voices here to support that. But again, just please take considerations. This is a community that is going to be, I think, harmed for the worse, even though you guys are doing a good thing with park needs to be paved and needs to be done. But the speeds that people go down on there, just us walking, like I walk there, the dog all the time, the speeds are insane. So I can't imagine, somebody hitting that curve at 60 miles an hour and going into somebody's backyard, somebody's home. Would be devastating. So that's about it.
I know I'm not allowed to talk, but are there any safety measures and who is in charge of that? Because we never saw anything, nothing, zero.
You might call OHM, the township's engineering consultants they will be the construction oversight for that road going in. And
We didn't really have all that time.
they're open tomorrow. I would call and see if you can ask them about the staking on Trailwoods and see if you can connect with, that would probably be the most direct route.
So see if what, sorry?
To do that, you can connect with someone at the consultant that would be overseeing the construction of it. Once they start putting a shovel on the ground, you're right, it's gonna be very difficult to stop. But OHM, it has an office just here locally.
Yeah, I dealt with some of that the other day, so.
Not clear on what exactly is happening. It's Park Road is being paved.
Yeah.
No. There's a curve that's been referred to a couple of times.
Yeah.
Removing the road.
So the road is, because there's a bridge, and again, well, this is kind of reacting live. It sounds like in order to save cost, we're rerouting around the bridge or something is happening, but it's clearly, I don't know if you have it pulled up, but there's a good swath of land that's just being cut through, and that is our neighborhood land with a lot of open space, with sidewalks, with like Aaron said, with kids, importantly, and as well as
it was instead of replacing two bridges, it was move the creek, move the creek, put in one bridge. And again, I know you're not saying anything, but you were the one who negotiated the deal. You would know exactly what it is, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but we're not supposed to be interacting back and forth.
Because that's transparent.
Okay, we're just,
Well, yeah, it's transparency.
we're trying to be involved and
We're not gonna get into this.
it's fair.
Sorry, what was your name again?
Yeah, so first name's Vitali, Vitali. Last name's Ivanov, Ivanov.
Thank you.
What was this committee's involvement in this project?
Well, this was before us, but since, we're involved in roads, and
I'm trying to understand the situation.
there's a bike path there now, the developer.
So the bike path will be there. It's just moved over.
It'll be
And
moved
again, you're gonna wanna put your kids next to a bike path that's 5 feet or 10 feet from a road where people are going 60 miles an hour down.
Right.
Now there's a shield, there's a creek, there's a berm. So they're cutting directly through a berm that was just put there literally less than a year ago with planted trees. If you take a drive through there, you'll see, you're literally on Park Road going through what would look like someone's backyard.
So who from the township would have approved the developer to do all this? Is this part of the planning commission committee or no?
We don't normally deal with roads except
No,
for the entire
because-
developments.
Yeah, the planning commission would have recommended that PUD to move forward to the board, the board approved it for the final, and then it would be Doug Luan, I believe, and then the engineers.
Roy Townsend right here who approved it.
Approve the road agreement or the.
This was done in 2015.
Right, but I didn't approve those plans. Those plans are current. I was there at the agreement.
No, this is the agreement.
I know the agreement. I didn't approve the plans. Engineering plans were just developed.
So
the concept.
But it says
like-
it right
Let's just
here.
close this meeting. We're not
Okay,
gonna show
so-
it.
It shows it
Half
right
of
here.
the township oversees that and approves the layout. You have to have a plot plan. You have to have a drawing.
It's gonna be the road commission's road, or the township's engineer, OHM, like.
Well, wait a minute. The township is letting the developer put in a development, which includes roads and whatever else they did. So someone on the township has got to have an oversight to say, this is for the benefit of the people of our township, or not. Who is that person?
There's no oversight because they put the roads in on what their phase 4.
Okay.
And it's like 6 feet into the woods drainage.
I will be.
There's gonna be all kinds of drainage problems.
Somebody from the board or somebody from Scio that works here ought to be looking at plot
It
plans.
was signed by the supervisor at the time, which was Spalding Clark.
So who's got that job now?
Will,
Hathaway.
yeah.
Okay, so it's Hathaway's job to call up whoever is doing this work there and saying, stop. He's responsible.
Tomorrow I will be talking to
Doesn't that
the
make
township.
sense?
I will drive by
Huh?
and
Thank you.
yes, I will look into this.
Again, have a look. Again, everyone wants it paved.
Yes.
Well, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people want it paved.
I get
But
it.
that's not the point. The
No,
point
that's
is
not the
there's
point
no-
at
Moving the
all.
road.
There's no oversight,
Into
it
the-
wasn't shown to residents. We bought homes there and it should have been disclosed to us that it was gonna cut directly through open space behind our houses. And that was known at the point from 2015.
There should be a layout.
I have the map that has a little
was,
slanted
but,
line
yeah.
that shows the.
Wrong.
There should be a layout that gets approved by somebody in the township.
As long as this is a full for all, I'm sorry, this is Jonathan Greenberg. I'm also on the line with my hand up. I have a little bit of history here. If you'd like, I don't want to interrupt this meeting,
Wait, Jonathan, hold on.
but I'm just.
Jonathan, hold on.
Just muted him.
Okay,
That's no.
thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
So everybody spoke, okay.
Anybody else for public comment in the room?
No, Al left. He wanted to, and no oversight, yeah. Okay,
There is this committee. I will stop people from talking in 5
Yes.
minutes. Yeah. I got 2 kids at home that I need to get home to. That's
okay,
the
so go ahead. Anybody on Zoom that wants to speak?
Pam Boyd has been very, very patiently putting her hand up for a long time and I've been putting it down. So Pam, if you'd like to go ahead, please.
Yes, you guys on the committees wonder why, Pam Boyd, a Scio resident, Scio community newsletter, you wonder why residents get so upset at various committees. This is a prime example that the township does not work well with each other. Whether it's Doug Luan, Planning Commission, whatever. It's a disgrace. And I will be driving down Park Road tomorrow myself.
Be careful.
Bob Walsh, thank you for bringing up the minutes. Although I'm not going to get in the middle of that discussion, although I have an opinion, I'll refrain. I do want to talk to Roy and Patrick. Something in the meeting, which I've now forgotten, led me to the PPP page, and I see that the PPP committee has no minutes at all this year. Now, I know you started kind of late, but you have 5 days to give your meeting minute draft to the township to post on the website. Could you please ask whoever is in charge to make sure that the draft meeting minutes have been posted on the website so residents can look to see what's been going on? Thank you very much.
Okay. Next up is Jordan Schaefer.
Hi, everyone. I'm a Scio Township resident as well. And I'd like to echo, the comments from Mr. Cohen and Ivanov. We live in the same vicinity of Trailwood. We have 4 kids out there, and I've witnessed firsthand cars, coming off that road, even though I didn't think it would be, possible when I first moved in. We've seen it at least twice here in that same vicinity where they're bringing the road up closer to where, children are playing and everything else. So, we weren't aware of this, when we bought the house, which was, we specifically asked what would happen to that, corner, and we were advised from, several, people involved in the purchase process that, that area would be, kind of maintained as the marketing plan from which I still have from the purchase of the house. So, this is kind of a surprise to me, and it doesn't seem like there's been thorough, safeguards in place. So, ultimately, I'd like to know, who would be responsible for, the potential safety issues if this, plan moves forward. And then also, kind of trusted that the township would, follow through on what was, advertised when we moved here. And, this is again kind of surprising that doesn't seem to be the case.
As you said, next up is Jonathan. Jonathan, if you want to unmute.
Hey, thanks. I was just butting in earlier to say I have some history here I'd be happy to share with you, but I'm not sure that this is, it's just detail about the original agreement back in 2015. And the intent up until very recently when these markers went in, the intent was the road was supposed to follow the sidewalk that was put in on the other side, obviously. And because they were moving, they wanted to save money and not replace 2 bridges. So they were just going to run a culvert across that angle and connect the 2 bridges. Apparently somewhere along the line, the plans changed because the stakes and just even along Park Road, I mean, it's absolutely, you guys got to get out here and take a look at it because it totally violates everything we've been told from day one when we sold the property to the property maps I have here I can share with you. It's wrong. And the fact that this, the road stakes going in is the first notion that anyone has that this is happening, even within Scio Township government, is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Left hand, right hand. No one knows what's going on. Nobody knows who's responsible for anything. And folks come in here to these meetings unprepared and have to be and spend a lot of time being informed as to what the actual law states. It's really an embarrassment. I'm with Pam on that as well.
They've done a lot of good before the committee.
Jonathan, are you finished?
Yep, you went on mute.
Yeah, I put myself on mute.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Next up is Rob Patterson. Rob, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you, Rob. Anybody else?
Anybody else? No?
Motion to adjourn? Second. And call the meeting at 9:40? Sorry, Jeff.
That's all right.
Is that what it says?
9:40 is what it says.
9:40.
I don't know what we're.
Who do I talk to?